Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Skottie Talk with Tyler and Dustin. I'm Dustin, he's Tyler. And special guest who we did not switch like we normally do. There we go. He's in the middle now. Is the one and only Jared Cullum. Thank you so much for coming on, Jared. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm doing terrific. Thank you guys for having me on. It's
Yeah.
it's great to see you both again.
No, yeah, glad that you could make it on. So
Yeah.
I felt kind of bad. I hurried up and got in from work, and I switched into my old Tennessee Titans jersey, and
Nice.
I wore my suit for Scotty. So this is no offense, but this is because I want this to be laid back and Jared to feel comfortable. So
Cool.
and the Titans are a horrible team this year, so I'm just
Oh
trying
no.
to I'm just trying to get as comfortable as possible. So
Sure.
no, no.
I don't follow. Are you? I can't remember. Are you in Tennessee or are you in North Carolina?
I'm in Kentucky. It's Southern
Oh,
Kentucky.
right,
But,
right.
yeah, but Nashville's like an hour and a half away from where I live. So
Awesome.
it's the closest NFL team, unfortunately. And but we're not here to talk football, and nobody wants to get
Okay.
pressed.
I
So
mean, it's just the same, yeah. Because I was from North Carolina, and yeah, my Panthers aren't so hot either. So
Misery
Nice.
loves company. We're right there. So
Nice. I don't know anything about sports. It would be a very short conversation on my end because I don't
I'm
know
with you
anything
right
about
there.
it.
I'm like
yeah,
I know team names, and that's about it. So
yeah, I
I
think we had a special guest who's a fan of Scotty on last week, and happened to bring up sports the first time. And I've known Tyler for like a year and a half now, and I didn't realize that Tyler knows nothing about sports. So
yeah.
we're from now on we're going to try to keep away from that topic just to keep Tyler in
I
the
just kind of sit
conversation.
there like just nodding my head, Yep,
sure.
so,
good
so
sports.
don't
I
feel
like
bad.
it.
But the one thing we do like is Jared's art, and we see
Yeah.
some of this on screen right now. Oh, what? Check out that segue, man! Just like a professional. Uh, and I'm sorry, Jared. This is the image that kind of floats around whenever you have appearances. I hope it's a good one that you we.
Oh, it's fine. That's sort of the one I use for author picks, so to speak.
Okay, good.
That's
There's
the
some ones with
standard
long
one.
hair that I really liked, like
Yeah, yeah.
previous ones that I almost grabbed. But I
Pandemic.
was like, I don't want
Dang
to.
it! We should have missed opportunity. Is that self portrait on the right? I'm assuming that Tyler grabbed and put on
Yeah,
the side.
yeah. That was part of a journal comic. The hourly comics where you draw a comic every hour.
Oh yeah.
I did that one year, and that was just one of the panels from it. So I just cut out the little piece on my sketchbook and saved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always love grabbing the self portraits, and generally most every artist has one who will have come on, which is always fun to see, how the artist interprets themselves. The hour panel, I'm not as familiar with that though. So you draw a comic in an hour.
Well, I think the idea is you draw some sort of a strip or a
Mm.
panel or whatever every hour that
Oh,
sort of
okay.
shows what you did over the last hour, and then after so many hours you have one short mini comic sort of roughly drawn. It's
Yeah,
like a day in the life kind of journal comic. I don't hear many people doing that as much lately,
yeah.
but it was like a lot of indie people would do it, and a lot of people would do them on like Twitter and stuff like that, and like some really great people like Lucy Neasley and some others would do it, and they're always really kind of funny and interesting. And I hardly ever do them. I always miss every time there's some sort of mass drawing event. I miss it. I always catch it like halfway through the month of whatever the event is, or something comes up that I can't do it. And so
Yeah. I mean,
that was like the
there's
one time I
yeah.
did it.
No, that's awesome. I was going to say there's so many now. There's like one every
Yeah,
month
right.
it seems that
Right.
we have. But I really like that idea. That's really cool. There's something similar in gaming, like Indie Jam, where like you like make a short little kind of game or whatever in 24 hours or something, Game Jam. So it's
That's
cool
awesome.
to hear something about like that in comics, where it's that same idea. You just kind of make this rough kind of comic, or like Derek Loffman did it, Inktober, and he did his comic during Inktober, and I'm like, that's so cool when people
That's a
take
great idea. Yeah.
yeah, that
To
kind of
do.
stuff and expand upon it. So
And that was one thing Jamie had mentioned when he was on too, and about doing a different panel every day for like the full 31 days, so you have a comic at the end of the month. And it was really interesting to read because I read it prior to him coming on, and it just how it flowed. Even though he said at certain times he was tempted to keep going on, but you kind of lock yourself into that 1 hour,
mhm.
and then it creates this cohesive story that was, I mean, pretty fascinating considering it was kind of done in blocks of different chunks of time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I fantasize about doing something like that. There, like last year at Lightbox, which a convention in Pasadena, I was near Chris Sanders, who did like Lilo and Stitch. And he's a
Yeah.
Disney artist,
Mhm.
super famous
Yeah.
guy. And he had this book called From Pitch to Stitch, and it showed like the creation of Lilo and Stitch. And in it
Yeah.
mentions, there's like a short story. I had it somewhere near me. I don't remember
Hmm.
where it is, but I have all of his sketchbooks and like a little Chris Sanders section. And he in the From Pitch to Stitch, he talks about how he kind of had the idea, and then he basically like went to a hotel room for a weekend and just did a ton of like basically did a kids book version, but
Oh,
did a
wow.
kids book of it. And then that's what that book is Pitch to Stitch is a lot of like the concept or initial ideas for it. And it's so interesting and beautiful. And I think about that sometimes, like, because I'll get an idea and I think about, although I don't, know if it would be nearly as good, but it would be fun to just spend a good 48 hours just working straight on one comic idea or whatever, just to try to hammer down as much as I could.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. Yeah, I immediately looked up the books. Yeah, that's such an awesome. I mean, art books are, as I'm sure, just like with you, it's like I love art books. I love just ingesting,
I
you
do
know, the
too.
process
Yeah.
from other creators, and so to be able to get something like that from a movie, especially the concepting stage, like the actual rough
Yeah.
ideas and stuff that then get polished and turn into the final piece that everyone gets to see is always so interesting to me. So definitely one I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
have to add to my list. So
Yeah, I wonder if you can. That's one of those that, like, of course, it was I think maybe $15 or $20 on the table or something. I can't remember exactly. It might have been a little more, but either way, it's on eBay for like
the one I found was
$400.
150. So that's
Yeah, I was gonna
good
say.
to
Keeps
know.
going up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
Chris-
drawing stitches too, and I bought one. I can't turn the camera enough, but he was drawing these stitches, and I bought one for like $300. And as I was walking away with it, I was like, oh, man, I'll bet people are just. And I get a quick eBay search, and already people were posting Lightbox
Yeah.
Stitch drawing for like to $2,000.
That's
or whatever.
crazy. It's
just like so quick, you know.
Yeah.
This past summer at San Diego Comic-Con, he posted a Funko Pop that had a Stitch drawn on it. And he's like,
Oh, wow.
it had like a
Oh,
$200
man.
price tag on it. So of course I messaged, you can't message him because it's more of a fan page. I just made a comment
Oh, bet,
saying,
yeah.
will you ship? And last Saturday, he put the little heart emoji on my question.
Oh, wow.
And I got excited. I was like, oh, he's gonna. And then there was no response. there was nothing.
man.
I guess he just went down heart and all the different
It
comments.
was more so like, oh,
But
that's cute. Like,
I thought that was
and
3
gone.
months later, and you.
He might have had a
Yes.
team. I don't know. I mean, he's so personable though and nice in person. Like
But he's got to be crazy. Yeah, after the
I'm
movie
sure he's
came out.
swamped. Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
was like right with Wild Robot and everything. So like
Ugh.
he was swamped. I went to the table early, and it was like, oh my god, he's right there. And I talked to him, and then the rest of the show, he had a line wrapped around them.
No doubt.
I didn't
It's
even get
beloved.
close to coming by again to even wave. So it was neat though to see him at the show.
So that's awesome, man, to be able to. Again, I mean, that's one of my favorite things about the show, especially I'm sure as I talk with other creators who have booths, at the show and stuff, how fun it is for them to again intermingle with other creators and stuff, especially ones if you look up to them or you haven't chatted with them, or just to being like you said, oh, that's Chris Sanders, that's pretty awesome to be able to chat with them and say hi. So
Yeah, I get too nervous. I don't talk to artists. I don't talk to artists with a capital A.
I'll stop it. Yeah,
I think
don't
I
be so
came-
modest.
I came too late,
Yeah.
and I still feel like a cloying fan, like because I came in as a fan. I went to Heroes Con before I started drawing, and I asked for advice from Robbie Wilson and Andy Runton and a couple other people who have become long friends of mine, and even like mentors over those years when I was trying to figure out like so how do you put the panel on the page? Like I could barely draw stick figures at the time.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so I still feel that way every time I go to Heroes Con. I still feel like just immediate humiliation when I talk to people who are actually
that's amazing
artists
that you
with a
feel that
capital
way.
A. And that's how I spend most of the shows. I usually bring I do a lot of outdoor painting, and I'm sure if you've seen my Instagram, a lot of it ends up being outdoor paintings and studies and stuff. So I usually at shows I tend to just take my little box and go outside and paint stuff. So that way I don't have to. I'm too afraid I'm going to be like embarrassed or you know,
No,
shunned.
no, man.
Not at all.
No,
But see,
the piece
I
is
have the opposite problem. I talk too much, so I had to
I
tell
was
people
gonna.
like, just give me one of these. If I like, I'm like, I don't want to
Yeah.
crowd your booth, or it's just just again like just the chance to be able to talk, even with like somebody like yourself, like with this and stuff. It's just again being able to exchange those ideas. But yeah, maybe you can get more into that too, because I listening to an interview you did last year. You talked a lot about that, about those feelings that you had of it's the this kind of self-deprecating. You're like, I'm not good enough. I can't. I shouldn't be here, kind of a deal. But that you channeled that into just the drive and just doing it and doing it. And even just you
Yeah,
mentioning,
sure.
yeah, on the break, I would just go out and paint. Is telling of that. So
Yeah, that's been my thing. I don't know. I guess it sort of is. I don't know if it's healthy. I think it could be sort of described as a sickness, maybe, or an obsession, because I feel like I came at this thing with no talent, and then anything that I have scraped out of the mud is like marbles in my fingers. And if I stop drawing for, I don't know, 7 hours, 8 hours, or like have
Oh
to eat
gosh.
or something at like a convention, even, or whatever, I feel like I'm dropping it, like it's slipping, and I have to scramble back and go do my, like, I have a lot of exercises, drills and things I do with figure drawing and other stuff,
Yeah.
and I feel like if I'm not doing those, like I'm somehow losing it, and that everybody knows. like, like if I see people who
you're caught. Yeah.
Yeah.
like that, they see that, so I should probably just keep my head down and keep digging in the mud,
Now, I want to
Yeah.
transition to this next slide. So, as you were saying that, so people can know that you are well respected by your peers.
Oh God.
I mean, yeah, the Reuben Award, the two-time Eisner. I mean, this is
Yeah. Exactly.
you
Yeah.
are yeah. It's and a lot of that's probably kind of put upon yourself. And do you think that helps you like keep that motivation going to create, or does it?
I think, yeah, certainly, I think it does. I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel great because a lot of times I feel like I'm just sort of white knuckling the pencil to try to keep, you know, working. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, you got to have a motivation. I think that it does motivate me to work harder and not slow down, and
Yeah.
it can be a good clean fuel. I think, you have to kind of ingest good fuel to keep yourself producing work. And I think my little light fell off.
No, that's fine. We keep going.
My fancy setup. I think it does. It keeps me producing
Yeah.
and not slowing down. So I think, I don't know, but I don't know, because I know other people who have quit, because
Yeah.
of feelings like that. So it is sort of it's something you have to
It's a
live with. But I
Yeah.
don't know any other way to feel or be. I always figured the goalpost just always kind of moves. Like I always thought
Yeah.
initially it was like, man, if I could just do like a page, then I'll like feel like I've done something, because I could barely draw like stick figures getting into it and draw people at all. And I thought if I could just figure out how to get panels on a page and get some sort of cohesive story on a page. And then it was like, oh, if I could just do these, like, because I was going to SPX and everybody had mini comics and they would trade mini comics. And I thought if I could just like get a 20 whole pages. And I was doing sketchbooks at the time. I do this like running exercise where I draw constantly with ink. And I always felt like initially when I started, like if I could just do even a drawing a day, or like 2 or 3 drawings a week, then I could actually feel like I was getting some momentum going. And then it became like 5, 6 drawings or pages a day, and it became doing multiple 20-page books. And then it was like if I could do a graphic novel, just something like above 100 pages. And then I couldn't do it because everything I would write was all like 20 pagers, because I got so locked in on these 20-page stories. I was just producing mini comics and I could not bridge that gap. And then I finally, basically, my main sort of graphic novel series is all on me is Skottie, which was the combination of basically 3 different mini comics that I finally just sort of put together, and then melded those ideas together. And then I did the graphic novel, but then, I don't know, the second it hit the shelf, I was like, God, if I could just do, it's like it's always growing. Like, I don't know. I've
Yeah.
never hit a point where I felt like,
There's no next step. It's
yeah,
Yeah.
the goalpost always moves further out. And, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's a good thing. I'm still, because
I was
I
gonna
still
say
am
it's
producing things.
something
so.
I wish I
Right.
had. I'm great about work, but then personal stuff is always a lot harder for me to be motivated to do it and stuff. And there's other, like, tons of variables, and every artist deals with it differently.
Sure.
But definitely inspiring to hear your take on just like I just don't know any other way. Like it's just you just keep making, and that's what it's supposed to be. And everybody like
Yeah.
like I said has issues with that in their own way, kind of a deal. But for you to just your issue is the opposite of just always wanting to kind of keep creating and going, and there is no stopping. There's just the next thing.
Yeah,
But like you
there's
said,
always the
it's
next thing.
super good. So
Yeah.
I think it's, it has its benefits in that I would say I'm pretty productive. I wish I was more productive, but again, that I don't think I'll ever hit a point where I feel like I'm productive enough. But I don't know, it has its downfalls too. Like I don't know, I feel like I spend all my time alone, so like I don't really do anything or like talk to people except for this. And like, I don't like watch movies or I haven't played video games since like Xbox One, and I not like the
Oh, wow.
Xbox One. I mean like the first
the first
Yeah,
Xbox
or
OG,
whatever,
yeah.
the big plastic thing. And because at a certain point, I just decided I have to go all in on this thing, and then I've sort of like laser focused and quit everything else I was doing, just to focus on this one thing. And then that drive has only gotten worse, so to a point of I guess social detriment. And then if I am doing something apart from hanging with my kids and wife, I'm not like a deadbeat, but when it comes to my family, I love being around my family, and I get energy and love from my family. But apart from that,
Absolutely.
I have a hard time not, like, if someone asks me out for drinks, I'm always like counting in my head, okay, this is going to be like 2 hours of not drawing. And then if I try to go to like I do a lot of figure drawing locally and like urban sketcher stuff. And my wife is usually encouraging me because she's like, at least it's social. You'll be around another adults. But I take it so seriously. I have a hard time because I can't.
Yeah.
If someone's like, "Oh, hey, good to see you again," I'm like, "I'm drawing, man. Like I can't. I'm trying to focus here."
I'll see you next time.
Yeah, I'll see you next week. Like the walk to the car is always nice, but when I'm in the session, I tend to, want to focus. It's like that's the time. Like, are we here to grow or not? And I have this feeling like there's only so much time. I know it's sort of macabre, but like I don't have that much time, in general. And all of these things you could take multiple lifetimes, drawing or painting or comics or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not like touched by God. Like I'm not going to be like John Singer Sargent or Mobius or like whatever. So I've got to use everything I've got to get as far as I can.
Well, my anxiety levels were here before the show. They're now.
I cannot breathe. I'm like sitting
I
here
need
like,
to go.
I've got to get off this
now.
podcast now.
We're all going to die.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Life is but a vapor.
No, it's. I mean, honestly, that's such a. Well, I was going to say, I feel bad now about interrupting you while painting it here. Is now I'm like, oh gosh.
Tyler, that's exactly what I thought of as we were talking water paint techniques, water color
I was like,
techniques.
what are you using? And you're like, go away.
I'm working.
No, I mean, I do love, sports. I can't keep up, but I do like talking about drawing and painting stuff. So
that's good. Well, we had a question from the audience here. Shane says, Is there a project you've worked on that you feel most proud of? And secondly, what was your welcome to the pros wow I made it experience moment?
Well, that's very generous.
Yes.
Of Mr. Shane. Geez, I don't know.
I'll leave the question up. Sorry.
I don't know. I feel like I might be your most depressing guest, and I apologize ahead of time for that. I don't know. I don't think I know. I don't think I understand pride, and I don't know if that comes from. This is like way overshare, and I'm gonna put your audience to sleep.
No, this is therapeutic. Do what you need to do. We're good.
I need a chaise lounge I can lay back on. And,
Yeah, just
How
take
do
it
they
easy.
make you
Don't you? Yeah.
yeah. Well, my mother, no. I'm kidding.
Yeah, we've got prescriptions for you after the show. So
No, I don't know. I don't think I know what I don't think I know what pride is, in a sense that I don't know, maybe I'm broken in that sense. I don't think I've ever made something that I felt like after it was done. I think maybe I'm just more of a process over product type of person that makes pictures, because I really enjoy the process and the chase, but once it's over, I usually am sort of ashamed of it, and like I tend to be thinking about the next project or need to move on, because it fills me with a sort of depression if I look at pictures that I've drawn in the past. So I don't think I know what it feels like to feel pride in a picture, and I think
Marine.
So I don't know if I've ever done something that I felt like
I
proud
was going to
of.
say even
I think
Cody wasn't that way,
Yeah,
or
Cody, I figured it was gonna be Cody. That was
yeah.
that was my guess for the answer for that one, but I was wrong.
I mean, I felt like when I did it, I would feel a sense of this was the dream. I mean, because it was the dream until I finished it, and then it just sort of expanded. I think also for me, art, and I think this is part of the rabbit hole that I've kind of forced myself into to try to make up for time, is hi Maureen, is I sort of see it as like coal in the fire of the engine, and so I don't necessarily think of like art as an object for me to be proud of, as much as it's something that I have to do now at this point. About like what feels like the same as breathing or eating. It's this thing I need to do, and then it's also just sort of like the goal is out there, and it's even Cody is was sort of just like coal in the fire to get to the next bigger thing that I want to do. So so I don't know. I don't think I've ever felt a sense of pride in pictures I've created. Sorry.
Wah, wah. Yeah. Debbie Downer pops on. No. Now, Jared, whenever you complete a process, though, are you more excited about having it completed? Or are you more excited that you've created this thing? Or is the excitement and the satisfaction come from the process itself? Or
Most of
I
you're
don't
kind of
know.
saying, the process itself
that's what
was more.
I think it's more the hunt and the process of creating, even though I tend to always think of the next part, the bigger part that's next, to think like as soon as I get past this thing, I can do another. I'm working on another book for Top Shelf now that they haven't announced yet, and so a lot of the process of Cody 2 has been getting excited about doing this other book too.
That's cool.
So because a lot of it too for my general process is like having planned, written, and drawn the book. It's sort of 180 page coloring book that I start thinking of other ideas, as everybody does, and so I have to stay on track. But usually it's more getting excited and doing concept art for the next big thing. And I don't think I haven't had like a welcome to the pros. I don't know that I have felt like a pro yet. So, but I think that's probably just the same thing.
Until tonight, this is your welcome to the pros, Jared.
Although that's very nice of Shane there to
Shane's
refer to me that way.
No, and he said, he said too, I love your style and subtleties and nuance you can create in your pieces. So much details without going overboard. So
that's very kind.
Giving you some
Thank
more.
You very much.
Yeah, we're the complimentary show. That's what you name our. It's like up on the. But it's interesting. Would you say then? Would you think it's maybe the challenge then that excites you? The challenge of challenging yourself, like you said, to do like you're like, okay, I've done Cody. I've got everything I can out of that. What's the next thing that can challenge me to propel me forward?
Yeah.
To do the next thing.
Yes, and hopefully to get better, essentially too. Just how can I get my whatever figures or like drawings a little bit better, or paintings a little bit better, environments a little more, or or how can I tell story better through other means too, as well, like lighting or, you know, camera angles, if you want to call it that. I know some comics people hate when people
Thinking
refer
in
to it as
3D,
camera. Yeah, when people
Even though
call
it's
it camera
3D,
angles
yeah.
or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of it to me, it is like it's like a process thing, the drawings and painting too. But I think it has kind of had to be that way because there is a lot. I think if you're interested in drawing pictures, there is so much quantity before you get to anything remotely quality that like you have to be able to abandon attachment. And maybe I've gone too far in that, but you have to be able to it's a skill you have to develop. Like there's an exercise I have with people who are students or when I've mentored with art schools or whatever, where there are exercises that I have used and then I will usually teach students where because you have to abandon attachment to individual drawings, and because a lot of it is just getting the threshold low enough that you will continue to move forward, because a lot of the process of growth comes from just moving forward, even if it's just a little bit every day. You know, because the whole thing is, but comics and painting and drawing pictures is like it's like you're hiking up a mountain or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's sort of like
10,000, drawings or,
yeah,
however you
exactly.
just kind of describe it.
Yeah, it's like like the documentaries of Everest, where it's like each base camp is littered with people who have given up. So it's you have to be able to figure out how to keep your head low and keep moving forward a step every day, even if it's just like drawing a figure or two or something.
Sign me up for that class, because I definitely need that for my 2D. I'm a 3D game artist, so
awesome, very cool.
Are you
also in Kentucky, or do you live somewhere else?
I'm currently in Florida, so
oh wow,
down
cool.
down in Florida. So I work out of Boulder, Colorado, with the company. But
nice.
But yeah, no, I have no problem now doing 3D stuff, but a blank page terrifies me more than. But it's because I don't want to make this isn't a me show, so I don't want to get too much into it. But it's like hearing that class, hearing you talk about that. It's one of those things. It's like I know what I need to do. It's just every time I pull it up, I'm like, nope, I can't do it. Like I'll do it tomorrow, and then it's like, well, you're not guaranteed tomorrow, so.
Yeah, sure. It's hard. I mean, there are things like, figure drawing drills you can do, just drawing whatever 20 figures, 10, 20, if you have time or whatever, to like just draw something, and then it'll lead to something down the line,
Yeah.
But looking at these images here, Jared, to the other thing that you had commented, you're not touched by God. I could spend the rest of my life trying to, do the 10,000 hours worth of work, and I could never create what I'm seeing on the screen here. So, even though you may not feel the pride they have, having someone like me and Tyler talk to each other about this kind of art, and your book, Cody, and Tyler we can fill you in on his feelings of Cody after he read it on the flight home from Heroes. I mean, it's creating emotions in other people that you may not feel yourselves, but even though you may not feel the pride, we're here to say that this is amazing work, and it's touching other people in ways that you may not even fully understand at the moment. So,
well, definitely. I mean, Cody is a deeply personal subject, even though it doesn't have anything to do with me. The idea, and same with Cody too. The idea is essentially that it is sort of a metaphor for my own personal life journey, even though it's not related. But the idea for the storyline came from just my own trajectory in life, which is that I loved this thing very much when I was a kid, drawing pictures, and then in my own path, it just didn't. Everyone I had talked to had said it wasn't practical, and it didn't feel practical, and it never felt like I was going to ever do anything with it. So I quit drawing and I gave up art altogether. And then art sort of slowly found its way back to me. And so that was sort of the idea for this character, developing this personal friendship with a thing and then losing that thing, and then the journey of that thing coming back later in life, which was sort of that's supposed to be art for me, drawing pictures, at least.
No, that's awesome, and it's really touching to hear, and I feel like a lot of artists can relate to that, myself included, of like you said, of having, people in your life or whatever it is tell you, like, oh, this isn't, you can't get a job, you can't make money this way, like you need to
Sure.
do something more practical and stuff. And I went through the same thing, and so maybe that's why this also touched me as much as it did, because of that underlying personal story for you translating through this book. But yeah, reading it on the plane, I was in tears. I was like, oh my God, this is, I knew I would love the art, but it's always that thing of like the art pulls me in, and then it's up to the story of whether or not it sells me on it. And the story on this absolutely sold me on it. I absolutely love it. See, I picked up my physical copy at Heroes,
Hey,
and
fun.
got my cute little
Hold on
Nice.
one second.
my bear sketch in there. So
You want to show it again? Yeah, no, I wanted to see it again
Yeah.
too. Oh, that's cute.
So
That's very good.
yeah, and I was super. As soon as I saw it, I was, because unfortunately I had like already had all my art lined up and where my money was going, and I saw your booth, and I was like, crap. Like I did not budget enough. Like I should have been more prepared. But I was like, I'll at least get your book, and read that. So yeah, I'm super
I'll be
looking forward
around.
to Cody too, and
Absolutely.
and what's coming next. But yeah, I mean, it's
I
like
always
I said,
try to
it's,
do
yeah.
Heroes, so I'll
Mm.
definitely be at Heroes. Next year is probably going to be crazier because of the Usagi stuff, and
Mm.
Cody 2 comes
Yeah.
out next year also. So
Oh, okay.
I'll be around. Oh, I'll be in OAX, by the way. So if you're in Florida,
Yeah, we've
it's
got
not
a
too-
promotional slide.
I was
for
gonna
the
say,
Tyler
yeah,
put in.
you're gonna be in
Yay.
my neck of the woods. So the more I
Nice.
look at it, I'm like, I need to go to this. So there's tons of awesome
I
artists,
just
including yourself.
always
so.
hear such good things, and then I get a
Mhm.
lot of questions of people asking if I'm coming. So I mean, it must have a decent amount of people that really go and
Yeah.
enjoy it. Heroes is like family to me, because like I said, I started going there before I was drawing really, and I was interested in comics, and so that one always has a special place to me. I try to do Heroes every year. I try to do SPX too, but it's hard to. I have young kids, and it's hard to
Yeah.
do a whole lot of shows, but I do love SPX. SPX next year, around SPX is when Cody 2 is coming out. So
Okay.
Good timing.
Awesome. That's good
but
to
yeah.
know. Yeah. And it's cool too, because that's so similar to Skottie, because Skottie was the same way, where he attended Heroes, as a fan first, wanting to get into comics, and then same thing, got feedback and all that stuff, and now it's the same thing for him. It's family, and
That's
it
very
definitely
cool.
is one of the coolest conventions I've been to, just in terms of how art centric and focused it is, and
Yeah.
creators around comics and stuff, which is really cool. So that's definitely why I'm interested in the Orlando one, because it's that same. I love MegaCon. I go to MegaCon. I've been going since college, but it's more kind of fluffing, and celebrities and all that kind of stuff, which is
Yeah,
also fun
so
in its own right.
hybrid.
But yeah, but to be able to focus on the art itself is really cool. So
That show to me felt more of the being welcomed into the thing of the drawing, making pictures, because that was the first show that I ever tabled at, because there was a group in Indy Island who was very kind to me and would they gave me like a and when I didn't have a lot when I started, so they gave me like a corner of a table with them, and they all still go, Rob Ullman and Jay Chris and Dwayne Ballinger and Wes Brooks and a bunch of them, and they were all so kind to me before I was drawing pictures, and I was drawing. I don't want to say bad, because I don't really want to moralize about whether or not a drawing is good or bad, but like I was not drawing very strong drawings at the time, and they were still very accepting and were like, let me at the table, and that felt much more welcoming than later. I mean, getting an email from Stan Sakai was very surreal.
Oh,
I mean, and
I can imagine, yeah.
I want to hear about that. Most definitely.
he emailed me out of the blue, because we were both, I think, up for the Reuben Award, not the same one, but like a different one.
Wow.
And so he saw Cody, and he just sent me a nice email to say like, hey, I liked Cody, and if I ever wanted to do a cover, that we should talk. And which was the cover, by the way, that you had showed us a couple slides ago. And I've always loved Usagi, and I initially was like, this can't be a real email. It's like, he's going to ask for my credit card details and my social security number.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that was surreal. That was the first cover I did for Usagi on the far right.
Oh, that's
That's
nice.
so cool.
And a
Yeah,
nerd
if
from
I
Brooklyn.
could, I would have
Oh,
given each slide
yeah.
one piece of art just to. I mean, again, just to if you go to his site, and we'll have all the links later. But go to his site, you can see all this stuff really
Right.
big and personal. So
Yeah, and the nerd
Nice.
from Brooklyn said that his daughter's favorite pieces of art she owns is the Cody sketch you gifted her. Can't thank you
Aw.
enough. So very cool.
Well, thank you.
And here's some images from Cody. I just wanted to make sure while we were still discussing that. And
Awesome.
Carl's
Yeah.
collection also said, definitely looking forward to meeting you at OAX. Cody and
Awesome.
Wonder City are both incredibly charming. So
Oh, thank you.
nothing
Thanks
but good
so
things.
much.
Nothing but good things around here, Jared.
Thanks.
It's weird because where Tyler is talking about how he has the more artistic approach to it, I'm the more negative person of the two of us. So I feel like if you mix me and Tyler, we would get you. Like
Yeah.
we'd have the creation for you. So, but no, this is just from everybody I've talked to. Tyler, whenever he came up to me and said, "Hey, Jared's at Heroes," and a little bit of backstory about me and Tyler. We met at 2024 Heroes. He had kind of chatted back and forth.
Oh, wow.
'Cause-
Really? I assumed
yeah.
you guys were like old
Oh no. We were we're
friends.
in a different lifetime. I'm sure we were. we were in the Renaissance together. But
well, it was all through because I just to
The-
preface it too. I was a part of his Skottie Young Facebook appreciation group, and I had been posting, and we had kind of chatted on there, and then like you were saying, Dustin.
yeah, and he ran into me at 2024 Heroes while I was in line. We shook hands, got a picture together, and we've been thick as thieves ever since. But we've only met twice. We met at 2024 Heroes and we met at 2025 Heroes. But we do this every week, and I talk more to Tyler than I do members of my own family.
That's
So,
fine. Yeah.
so it's yeah. But the same thing that you said. I have 4 kids, and I don't get to go to a lot of shows. So Heroes is the only one I usually go to, just because it checks so many boxes. And meeting someone like you at this past Heroes and getting the piece that we're going to show here in a second that I got from you, Tyler had said, Jared's over there, and he showed me where your booth was, and I was like, after seeing some of the examples that you had at your table, I was like, I've got to get a commission. This is just incredible work.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we'll
thank
come
you.
just while I'm rambling on about it. This is the piece I got. Gert from I Hate Fairyland was the piece that I picked up from you at this Heroes. So, and I was blown away. I saw you working on it in a couple of different phases, but whenever I picked up the final piece, this was one that's like, all right, I got to frame this almost immediately because this definitely belongs on the wall. So we can't thank you enough for coming to Heroes and taking the time to do this type of pieces. Where I would
It's
assume
fun.
you could have did a quicker sketch and then maybe did more, but the time you took and the amount of love that you put into this, I was just blown away by this piece. One of my favorite pieces from Heroes this year.
It was fun. That's such a fun. I mean, that whole world is so fun, in general. So, that was a fun character to draw.
Yeah, it's just your and we kind of discussed it at Heroes that this not resurgent, but just like the all the watercolor stuff we were seeing at Heroes present this year seemed
Yeah,
a
I'm
lot
seeing
more than
more of
I
it
kind of
now,
noticed in the past, and it's been a medium I've ever slightly been so interested in just because of how different approach it is, in my opinion, to something as straight as sketching and then inking and then filling in, with color, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's and it's interesting to hear you kind of talk about how you came upon watercolors, because like you said, you kind of tried more, the traditional comic approach, and it just wasn't clicking as much until you found watercolor, and it almost was freeing in that sense of their,
Absolutely, yeah.
being able to more freely flow into the art rather than be confined or rigid with certain
I think that
things.
that was a big part of my general trajectory with drawing pictures, because I initially, which I mean you can't tell by looking at the things I draw, but I initially wanted to be an inker, and I had figured all right, well, I'm never going to be able to just draw stuff, so my best bet would be if I can master inking, and then maybe I can get to do something with something someday if I can just get good at ink. So I was very interested in ink drawing, and I had no interest, and I always thought I have always, honestly, to be totally honest, thought that painting was just sort of stuffy and boring, and I had no interest in it ever, in college or anything. And, I went to school for graphic design, and I never had any interest in paintings, and I always, an art museum just seemed sort of boring to me. It just seemed like a stuffy thing, and then
Yeah.
there's a lot of it I just didn't get the appeal of, like landscape painting, which is now like my just
Your
absolute
jam, yeah.
obsession outside of drawing comics. If I'm taking a break from drawing all day, I tend to do drawings for landscapes or figure drawing, and both of those things I thought sounded atrocious, like just so like stuffy and boring. And I went down to Florida, actually, to Gainesville, and I assume they're still open, but there saw a school there for comics, and they were doing like a weekend workshop on make your own graphic novel kind of thing, and it was for very beginner, and I was very beginner at the time, and I was trying to understand like what nibs were and like how that whole process would even work and what nibs to use and all that stuff. And at that time I was doing a web comic because I wanted to have like a deadline, so I had like a couple of these exercises I was doing every day, and then I had a web comic at the time because everybody had a web comic. This was like 2000, like 11 or something, I can't remember. And everyone had web comics at the time, and so I was, there were all these WordPress easy build things, so I started my own web comic at the time, and I was doing it every Tuesday, Thursday, or something like that, and I ended up doing like, I think like 400 or 600, somewhere between. I think I did 400 initially, and then 200 more that were but they were strips, so it wasn't like full pages. So it was like a strip a week,
massive amount.
And then so it was 600 of those total, and then I went down to SAW, Sequential Art Workshop, I think is SAW, and I was trying to absorb everything I could because it was a lot of it for at that point in where I was. It was just a lot of information, like how to ink stuff, and I was trying to do all of the workshops and stuff on how to draw and stuff, and they would reference different artists from art history, and so I was trying to look at those people like Arthur Rackham and people, and these different illustrators or Golden Age illustrators. And anyways, they had a library of comics, and in that they had a section of French comics, and it just completely blew my mind. And the guy that runs the school, Tom Hart, he was so generous and kind, because I was, the second I saw him, he had like there's like 8 Mobius books, and I had not heard of Mobius. And so that was just like, what is this thing? Like I pulled out the Incal and was just immediately like jaw to the floor, just like, what is happening? And they had Cyril Pedrosa's Three Shadows, and they had a couple others, and they had the collection of Louis Trondheim's work, which was the big thing for me at the time because it was all watercolor. The Little Nothings is like the autobio comics he does, and they're watercolored. And I told Tom, I was like, I love these things, and he was like, well, take them back to the room if you want. So I like lugged like all these books back, and I literally like didn't sleep. I stayed up, and I was just studying page after page of this stuff. I'd never seen these comics before or anything like it. I didn't grow up reading comics when I was really little, and when I was very young, my parents were very they were they're very religious, and I don't fault them. It's a scary world, so they didn't let us entertain a lot of stuff that was not Christian. And it's a scary world, but they had their reasons. And I have kids, I get it, it's scary out there. So I had not experienced a lot of like Spider-Man comics or things like that. Like I would catch the animated series of, the Batman or Spider-Man animated series or X-Men, but I had not had much experience with comics when I was a kid. Okay. So to me, going down there and seeing like what the French people were doing, and a lot of them were watercolor. And there was like Boulet stuff. It was all watercolor stuff, and just like at least subtly colored with watercolor. And it just completely blew my mind. And I was like, I have to do this. I have to figure out, I have to crack this code. Like I have to understand this stuff. And then that became like, okay, well, if I'm going to get good at it, I have to study it, and I have to study the history. And I kind of went down the rabbit hole of art history and watercolor history, which led to a lot of other stuff. And then that led to just trying to get better at it, led to a bunch of other stuff, which became the general obsession. So most of my work is like practicing watercolor, like landscape painting and figure painting and all that stuff. Portrait painting is a lot of that is practice, where I'm trying to glean some kind of storytelling skill that I can then take back to my cartoons and silly pictures. So
No, I mean it's such
That's
a
good.
it's and I absolutely and I think that's why I gravitated towards your work is I could see that mix of those two worlds combined. It was the same with Joe Mad. I absolutely love Joe Mad's work for the way he brought Western stylization and mixed it with Eastern comics. Not that he was the only one to do that, but it's just that was my first intro to it. And I noticed that with your work as well. The watercolors itself, but again, the clean line work, inking, of the outlines and stuff of characters and things that we're so familiar with comics. It just blended so well and created such sharp watercolors that I hadn't really seen before. Like watercolor, I'm mostly, like I said, landscapes, and it's all kind of, not blurry, but it's just, there's no real
Yeah.
definition to shapes. It's just more so about, the color and all that stuff. So seeing your work,
that became the style that I was after, which was like at a certain point it was just sort of embracing the thing that did inspire me a lot when I was growing up, which was like old Disney cartoons. So like 101 Dalmatians and Robin Hood were massive influences on me when I was a kid. And like we went through so many clamshell VHS copies of Robin Hood in particular. But 101 Dalmatians and Robin Hood, I would break the VHS by playing it over and over again, and then I would always pause it because those are like Xerox era Disney, which is when they let go the budget. For the budget, they cut the inker, so they weren't hand inking anymore. They were drawing it and then like putting it through a Xerox really dark. So like 1 in like 1,000 frames, they didn't quite clean it up enough, the cleanup crew or whatever, and so like it would be like one of Milk Hall's characters or whatever it would just flash for like a millisecond, the wiring, the underdrawing of the character, like the circle and the crosshair and then the structure, the gesture and all that stuff. And I remember just like trying to pause it, rewind it, pause it, rewind it, pause it, and get it to stop on that frame, and then I'd try to draw it and copy it down and just to try to figure out what they were doing, or just copying those movies over and over and over again. Because those were meant a lot to me. Because those were the cartoons that I watched a lot of, so like obsessively. And so to me, with Cody, that I wanted to sort of embrace that, because I had come from doing digitally colored web comics, and I wanted to bring this stuff I was doing with the landscape painting and the figure painting and all this stuff and try to do a finished picture book with the watercolor. And I just figured I just embraced that style that I love so much in Jungle Book and Robin Hood, where it's a hand painted background and then a cell. So a lot of like what I do is sort of just copying that, in a sense, mimicking that idea of like a hand painted form-based background. Usually a lot of times it's improvised, and then inking the character on top so that it gives the sense of a cell sitting on top.
You've really captured that. And when I heard that from your previous interview, like I said, from last year and stuff, you brought up those same movies and stuff and that same inspiration, and I loved hearing that, because I love, like you said, that sketchiness to it, the roughness, the undefined yet still defined outlines that didn't have to be perfectly clean, especially now with the digital age and smoothing and that kind of stuff that we see. And it really lends itself, I feel like, to watercolor, because again, and that's kind of like what I asked about it here was, how do you get the control you get to be able to, get it so clean, but yet again, still have that, watercolor look to it. Like even stuff like I'm looking in the middle picture with one of the sisters there, her eyes, like just so stark, that white, sharp pop, but then, contoured by the, like her shirt that's a little bit muddy and mixed and stuff. So
a lot of the colors end up looking a little bit muddy because I do a lot of the mixing on the page instead of in the palette. So it ends up making pops of color good just to have like variation,
Yeah. No, it's so pretty. And then you pausing the VHS is so, because again, I mean, again, technology and what we have today, and now you can you go frame by frame and stuff. You didn't have that, with VHSs.
Oh sure. Oh man, I would have. I don't know what I would have done if I had like to be able to frame by frame something like Porco Rosso or whatever. I would have been just obsessed.
Yeah, I was gonna get into the Studio Ghibli because I'm a massive Studio Ghibli fan, and Porco Rosso is become one of my favorites. Surprisingly, I started with Spirited Away. My dad, of all people, who is not like the last person I would have thought would introduce me, was like, "Hey, this movie came out. It's called Spirited Away," and then that like just spurred my fixation with this world, as most everyone does when they've stumbled upon
Sure.
Studio Ghibli. But you talking about, and I'm gonna butcher the name, and you'll be able to correct me, but Oga Kazuo,
Sure,
the
close.
background painter.
Oga Katsuo, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Katsuo, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. His work,
Yeah,
and
environment
it's
painter.
his inspiration on you, and you can talk more about that, just because it's, if anybody who's not familiar with their work, definitely go look them up because it's just gorgeous. So
Yeah, I love Oga Katsuo. I'm a huge fan. There's even a little clip of him painting on YouTube someone filmed. And
wow.
It's amazing. Yeah, just with poster paints, he creates such beautiful environments, and there's so much of the story is told in his lighting and environments. And I have all the books. I'm obviously a massive Ghibli fan. I mean, I will put your audience to sleep if we go down this rabbit hole. But I could literally go on for days about the breakdowns of storytelling.
Yeah.
And my obsession with those movies. And Porco is my favorite, which is funny because I have a similar
that
thing
and
where
Kiki's.
Yeah, there you go. And I have cells of it around in my studio.
That's
but
so awesome.
Wow.
If I had to pick one, I don't know that I would say that they are like the best or whatever, but they are to me my favorite because I don't know if it's just like the nostalgia of the 90s, early 90s, kind of late 80s cartoons, and how a little bit wonky and silly things were, but or if it's just that I'm older now and maybe that just I connect more with the story in Porco. But Porco is my favorite. It's, I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't know, you probably can't see it, but my desk is slowly becoming like an altar to Porco Rosso.
I see the no face, and all the stat. That's amazing. I love that. I love the plane back
like
there,
the plane and random things that when the kids can't think of what to buy me, they'll end up getting me something from the all the tons of Ghibli stuff they sell.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I love Porco Rosso. I'm a huge fan of it. Just the environments, the color, the storytelling.
No, like I said, it's one that I didn't appreciate fully at first. And funny enough, you brought it up because of the fact that I was like, oh, this isn't as fantastical as some of the other ones. I was like, he's just a pig.
Yeah.
And that's but then like you said, I got older and I started watching it more, and just the charm the movie had.
Yeah.
And the lightheartedness, but also the everything that was going on with the war and stuff in it, and everything, the messaging that it has is just fantastic. And like I said, it's definitely become one of my favorites now, and one that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. So when you mentioned it, I was like, oh, he's mentioning Porco Rosso. I was like, heck yeah. And then you did your one commission heroes of Porco.
Oh, right. I did.
And his little hideout with his plane and everything. And I was like, oh, that's so good. But I mean,
that was a fun one. I finally got to do one.
Yeah.
I people don't. It's a little bit random. People don't usually pick that one, but I was super excited that someone wanted Porco's red plane. So,
well, I'll definitely have to keep that in mind, because that's definitely one that I would love to have in your watercolor, is something like that. And
cool.
And it's just cool, your inspiration of Ghibli and Oga and their work. Again, it's just so, it makes a lot of sense because they kind of a similar same medium and the way that they paint and everything. So
they just do it also well. Storytelling, the color, the light, the everything. Everything's dialed up to 11. It's all great.
Well, I was gonna say they're that same pursuit of perfection, or that same pursuit of the next step that's similar to you. I mean, watching Miyazaki's documentaries and just how it's like, no, it has to be like, no, redo it. Like, or fine, I'm just gonna do it myself, and just working himself to the bone and making the movie just is exactly the way that he envisioned it is just something to be it's just something that's just super inspirational. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, I do have, by the way, I have some, well, some pages I can show.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jared. I was trying to
Oh,
time
you're
that
fine.
one. I was trying to time.
Sorry.
I thought you all were done talking. I was like, oh, here's a chance.
No,
And I
no,
was
like I
like,
said, you'll have to
no.
do that
I just
like you said,
ruined it.
Studio
Yes.
Ghibli.
Man, Jared was really getting into it, and well,
Oh,
Jerry
no,
had
you're fine.
Jerry had asked this question at 7:30, it's like 25 minutes ago. So I didn't
Oh
want to
my
forget it.
goodness.
So
Oof.
so yeah, sometime before the end of the show, if you've got any, I know we had talked a little bit about the Usagi not being able to show those because of the
Yeah, I
big
can't
premiere
show a
that's
lot
happening
of.
next week.
Yeah, they've got stuff coming out at New York Comic Con that they'll show. And then they'll have this, the solicit information. So once that stuff
Right.
is out, like the cover and all that kind of stuff, then I'll be a little bit more free to show some things. But at this stage, everything is still in process. So I'm currently working on the pages. So that is sort of processed, but don't look too much at them.
I was gonna say I didn't want him. I was like, there's stuff
enhance.
hanging, but I don't know if I
Yes.
should point it out.
Yeah, we don't want to get Jared in trouble for that. So.
I pretty intricately color script the stories, so I like to pin it up like that so I can make sure that it's adhering remotely to the color script that I do along with the regular script that the writer that I work with. So I'm co-writing the book with the writer Zach, and Zach he writes the scripts. I storyboard, he writes the scripts, and then I've been doing a color script as well, which is just a sort of what the general colors are, the palette from page to page is going to be, so that we can tell the story better.
Really cool, because that's something I don't really hear a lot with comics. That's something that's majorly important for film, and you'll see that a lot in film art books, the color storyboards and going through the entire film and just seeing all that. So that's really cool to be able to do that with a comic. Do you find yourself doing that often because of the medium you're working with, watercolor, or just specifically this project in general? Or
I think so. I mean, I like to think through that anyway, whether or not I actually do script it out. I do think through it in general. I'm always thinking about like the color and then how it's going from one, story wise, like what story the color is telling. You're right. It is much more, I think, common in like animated film or film than I've heard people talk about with comics. But I think honestly, just for this one, it was such an honor to get to be a part of the project that I've been throwing the whole kitchen sink at it. Like I've thrown everything at this thing.
Nothing held back.
Because I'm already like, it helps that it's something that I came into the project already very passionate about and love the character. And so getting an opportunity to play in that sandbox is such an honor to me and to Zach, the writer, that we're throwing everything. Like we've had a couple all-nighters where we're just like, we're trying to put everything we can like and just drafting and then for me just drawing the character over and over and over again, which I think we'll do a little bit in a minute here. But yeah, it's been a lot of like, because one thing that happens when you draw comics, at least I have found, maybe it's just my skill level, but a lot of times when I start, by the 20 pages in or by like the end of the book, it's distinctly better. Like the design got a little crisper, it looks a little bit better. So to avoid that, like I spent like a couple months where I was trying to draw like Usagi and then the cast that we have in the book at least 10,000 times. So I have like just stacks of sketchbooks where I've been obsessively
making a comic before the comic.
Yeah,
just drawing the character because I didn't want it to be different progressively as it goes. I wanted it to have a good refinement. I wanted to understand its particular cube rotation, so I could like draw it at any camera angle that we decide, or whatever we want to do with it. So
I was gonna say, do you do turnaround sheets, or is that how you do it? It's just sketch? Okay, cool.
I do a lot. I did a lot, especially for Usagi. So I can't say I do this every single time because I am, like I said, doing everything I can on the Usagi project. So, but most books I've done, Cody, the new book I'm doing for Top Shelf Hen is the title of it. And then Usagi especially, I will always do character turn sheets, character emotion sheets with the turn sheets, concept art. So I usually will do, maybe 10 to 15 just general environment paintings with or without the characters, just to get to know the character. Oh, I have the sketchbook. I could probably share some of that in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll do concepts, just showing the world that they're in. So like, just like,
Yeah.
what do the police look like, and what are the firefighters, and how do they interact with people, and then I also really like doing sculptures. So I'm not a sculptor, so I would not say like I'm a knowing professional, but like
Making maquettes or
yeah, I sculpt maquettes of the characters.
So I absolutely love maquettes. So
Oh, I see the.
Okay,
I'm trying not to look
Dustin,
at the
we
left-hand
know,
corner.
Dustin, we know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm screenshotting like a madman right now.
If I can get hold on one second.
Oh no,
Yeah.
Give me a second.
Dustin, you're gonna get us in trouble.
I know. Stan, I'm gonna get an email from Stan, and it won't be a good one.
Yeah. No cheating, Dustin.
Yeah, claim dibs.
You and Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle enhance.
Yeah, I like
this
that
is
comment.
so cool. That's so cool that he.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay,
wow.
sorry. Yeah, so like I have the Cody one I had 2 or 3 Codys, but they just it fell apart over time, because I usually like to leave.
Oh no.
I usually leave part of it baked and part of it not baked, so that it can like move. But
Yeah.
I do little clay sculptures of the characters. Oops. So like this is one of the characters. So just like a little clay.
Yeah, he's not good at this. He said.
Yeah,
This
I know.
is
Yeah, I'm like, that looks awesome.
Incredible, Jared. That's great, man.
So I do like I mean, I can show you. I can show you it all in a minute when we show the sketchbook. But I'll do these. I'll do these little diagrams of the shapes that I'm building the character out of. And I have the hen ones, but I won't be able to get them out because they're in I have a case over here. So I have all my other stuff over here that I had the Cody one, but it like fell up. It got weird. It just started like crumbling and falling. They don't last very long because it's just cheap Sculpey.
Yeah.
It does the job, though.
But yeah, it does the job, and they can, on these, like I did these with joints or whatever, so they can like move, and
that is so
cool.
That way I can like put them in some position or whatever that I'm doing, like a cover, or like
that's nice.
Even having the clothing on there is just so cool. Did you like get this like from like a doll or something, or did you also hand sew these yourself?
No, that would be funny. I do like that you called it a doll.
It's an action figure, dadgone it.
That's what. Yeah, I know.
No, they're dolls.
Stop it, Tyler.
Because I always tell my wife I'm working on these. Like she'll be like, "What are you working on?" I'll say I'm working on the light models, and she's always like, "Okay, your little light models that you." Yeah. And I'm sitting here like, pew, pew,
create little lightsabers for Usagi.
But yeah, they're no, they're you can if you do them at 112 size, there are there's whole catalogs of 112 clothing you can buy.
Gotcha, yeah,
and they happen to have like the baggy pants or whatever.
Yeah, but to say they had like the perfect clothing, it seems.
So cool.
But the rest of it is like this is just a cut t-shirt, and his ears are a t-shirt, but with a wire in it, just in case like I was doing something where they're moving, I wanted to be able to like have some sort of dynamic movement.
I absolutely love. I'm nerding out over the fact that you make your own maquettes for this to help, because again, being a 3D artist myself, that's such. I relate to that, and it makes so much sense, versus that's I'm gonna fight you on it.
Yeah, we're trying to minimize it.
Like sketching, seeing it in a 2D space, but having that 3D. So that's really cool to see you, utilize your skills, and again in a different area, even though, like you said, it may not be, the finest sculptor, it's still, incredibly awesome and looks very fantastic. And yeah, super helpful, I imagine.
It's become a big part of my general process because it really helps understanding the form. Because then you really see it in 3 dimensions. And maybe if I understood technology better, I could save a lot of time and do it in Blender or something. But I don't know how to do that. So I just stick to the clay and wires and stuff. And so it's I find it very helpful, because then if I'm doing things like because I spend a lot of time working out cube rotations, which we could talk about when we draw some. So when I'm trying to figure out the diagram of the character and then translate that to whatever sort of cube form that I'm going to rotate, it really helps to be able to have actually sculpted it out of clay, and then I can just process it better. You know, like if you're doing like a 3-point, if they're hanging from a wire at like a 3-point perspective or whatever, it really helps to understand, you know, okay, well the hair would block this or what, you know, like what occludes what, and not have to try to totally wing it. You know?
No, it's and like you said, that's that attention to those small details, and going back to Ghibli, but not trying to go down the rabbit hole again, like you had talked about in the previous or interview from last year of like those small details they would do of, you know, Chihiro putting on her shoe and then tapping on the floor, or the food and stuff, just those small things. So I would imagine it's a similar thing where, like you said, the way the ear would lay, like, yeah, you could draw it, but knowing, you know, almost exactly kind of how that would be just makes it so much more grounded and believable and gives you know, that sense. So that's really cool.
Yeah, they're really helpful. I find. I think it's worth the time doing. You know.
Oh, no doubt.
No, that's awesome, man.
Real quick, 2 points. We have hit past the hour mark, and we always like to give our guest a heads up.
Sure.
We will stay for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, let's say not that we'll cut you off, because we generally go like 2 hours.
Yeah, but if there's any time you need to hop off, you are more than welcome to. But you are more than welcome to stay as long as you want. We are loving this. This is a blast for us. So
it's fun getting to chat, man. I'm just happy to be here. I'm good to hang out.
Perfect,
we can do some drawing in a minute too if you guys want, or I can show some pages from. I can't show you Usagi stuff, but I could show Cody a little bit of Cody 2 stuff, and
I would love to see.
And that's the other thing I was going to mention, Tyler, real quick, is that whenever you were talking about the pages that you can't show tonight, whenever that comes out, if you're more than welcome to, we have, when Derek comes in, he'll often start with page 1 and go through the whole book and show the artwork from behind it. You're more than welcome to come on anytime you have a new book coming out that you just want to show the pages and kind of showcase them, because our audience loves seeing that kind of stuff, the behind the scenes, the art that makes it. So yeah, whenever Usagi comes out, Cody 2 comes out, the full thing, it's almost like going page by page and just absorbing the art. And our audience eats that up. We love that. Me and Tyler eat that up. I mean, if it was just me and him hanging out with you, we'll do it. We don't have to have anybody here with us. But
no, it's just it's the process and the thought behind it too, because you'll get, you know, the stories, you know, of like, oh yeah, we, you know, such and such, we thought of this, or oh, we did it this way because of, you know, this reason, and just things you wouldn't, you know, you read the comic again, those, you know, behind the scenes kind of a deal. So
yeah, sure. And I'm happy to talk about the process too, like in terms of
please do,
like how the process I use, like between watercolor, gouache, and then pastel to get the light effects of the color. So
I must say that's crazy. So using all 3 of those, that's so awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Definitely, I want to hear about that. So
yeah, I'm getting further and further away from computers, whether I want to or not. Just like I'm getting, and then now especially, which I think that's something that I feel a personal, you know, I don't know, jive. If that's the word, but like a connection, I guess, with Stan Sakai, is that he does stuff all by hand as well, and also does water. He's a very talented watercolor as well, but he does stuff by hand. So when me and the writer of the book that I work with decided we wanted to do this, which was more the process of him convincing me to do this, because I was too embarrassed to share any of my drawings with Stan Sakai. So when he was like pitching me to pitch the idea to them, it was we were saying, if we if on the like slingshot around the moon chance that they even email us back, even give us the courtesy of like, that's very cute, guys, that if we get to do this thing, we're doing it all by hand. So I'm hand lettering the book, and it's all hand inked. I'm using ink again. I stopped using ink for years, but I'm using ink on it just because I felt like I didn't want it to be too different from the original Usagi. We don't want it to look just like Usagi, like we're just copying it, but I also didn't want it to look like completely different either. So I'm trying to incorporate some aspects like ink as well, but for the most part I've been using just watercolor. So on most things, like the Superman and the Popeye you have there, watercolor, gouache, and pastel, and then I use just watercolor with no water in it for quote unquote ink. So
okay,
like on the main characters or whatever. For
to
Superman,
get that,
or
I would assume that pop, or like you said, to get them as undiluted as possible.
Try to get the crisp line, and then also again just sort of copying, if I'm being honest, from Studio Ghibli, because if you get the Art of Totoro book, well, I'm assuming you have, but I definitely have.
I think I've got Totoro, Spirited Away. Yeah, I think a few others.
There's some really great ones on just the backgrounds. There's a whole series, and
I think you mentioned some, and I immediately looked them up, like the Oga books, and I was like, I need to add these. So
for sure, yeah, you can get them on eBay, where they've done like art galleries have done a show of his stuff, and they'll make a catalog. I keep them pinned open like a lunatic all around the room. I have a bunch of Winslow Homer and John Singer Sargent and Oga Katsuo books that I have pinned open at different pages that I find inspiring. But I don't even remember what I was talking about, but I went down a rabbit hole.
Similar to the Studio Ghibli vibe of the characters.
Oh yeah, like Totoro, the Totoro book. In the Totoro book, they mentioned the art director, one of the ADs. Oh my gosh, and people who are Ghibli fans are gonna send me death threats for not remembering her name. It's a lady, and I can't remember her name at the moment. And as soon as we hang up, I'm gonna remember her name. But, the lady who does a lot of the color decisions for Ghibli.
Tyler, look it up.
I think I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember their name, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyways, she made the decision for Totoro to switch from black to brown ink and to make the characters feel more alive. And that blew my mind. I just thought that was and it totally shows. Like, I think that's something that makes Totoro stand out. They feel much more alive and warm. And I think it's because they're using brown ink instead of black. They don't feel quite so
cartoonish.
There's like a warmth to it. Yeah, there's this there's so much of Totoro is like a meditation on being alive, and those characters and their moment of time. That little, like, there's this little sort of slice of life in their life, and it's really that's a great example. Again, this is one of those things we could talk all night about, but that's a great example of a decision made.
We can go ahead and put you down for another episode where it's just Studio Ghibli, and I'd be totally fine with that. So.
Hey, Jared, the top three ladies that I'm pulling up from Studio Ghibli are, Lord help me, Mikio Yasuda, Makiko Futaki, and Mami Tsunada, or any of those?
Oh man, I can't remember right now. I have to get the book off the shelf.
Okay.
Anyways.
I butchered those three ladies' names. I apologize. If you thought you were going to get, if you thought you were going to get death threats, they're really going to come after me. It's like an anti-Oprah show here. So okay.
No, but that's for a long time I've been using just brown or blue. So blue for cold for distant objects, brown for the objects that I'm trying to draw. So like the Popeye here is brown ink. Or watercolor rather. It's burnt umber.
Yeah.
And then Superman is too drawn with burnt umber ink, but his pants are ultramarine blue for ink, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And both of these pieces are in Kansas right now, I believe.
I was gonna say, both of these are with our good friends Skottie and Stupid Fresh Mess who won these pieces, and it was really cool seeing them just as excited. And like I mentioned in a previous show, like most of the artists I found at Heroes that I was interested in, I'd go to their Instagram and I was like, oh, already being followed by Skottie and Stupid Fresh Mess. It's like, that makes sense. They have similar, taster, they find similar artists to be just as inspiring as I do. So it was cool to see them win this piece along with the Popeye that was 2 years ago, I think, right? Or
2024 is the Popeye, I believe, and 2025 was the Superman or Clark Kent. That was Well, quick question for you: if you look at these pieces here, these are massive pieces for anybody that didn't see them in person. Do you even take commissions like this? And what kind of payment plan do you have for these commissions? So these are incredible. I mean, these are beautiful pieces.
I do.
Half serious, half joking, but mostly serious for those. These are incredible, man.
Usually they go by size or whatever, like 9x12, 10x14, and then usually whatever standard watercolor paper sizes I can do. Those are just full sheets, which is 30 something by 22, and then I cut the like 3 inches off the top, so they're a little bit more kind of cinematic, wide angled.
Panoramic. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are
Yeah, gorgeous pieces.
the two. Well, I mean, not that it really matters. I guess it's sort of boring, but
No,
those are
no.
based on plein air paintings that I did in the background. The backgrounds are paintings that I've done
Oh,
in
okay.
Alaska, and then
Oh, wow.
like the barn is a barn painting I did. I think it sold, but it was a barn in here in Pittsburgh, and then the distance, which is sort of, I guess, incoherent, but the distance is it's Women's Bay. I forget the mountain. It's near it's in Kodiak, Alaska, and then it's the town of Kodiak behind the red boat, the Spinnaker.
No, that's super
That's
awesome. So
incredible.
that was, do you do that? How many? Because I've only seen these two hero pieces. Have you done other hero auction pieces that
Oh
we're
yeah,
not seeing here?
it's
It's a good question. I was wondering
it's
that
funny
too.
that you bring that up. Yeah, that was such a funny, like, so much of my, I think, like, trajectory with doing pictures has sort of hinged on that Heroes Con auction, because
Mm.
when I first went, like I said, I wasn't really drawing yet, and then I went to the auction and I was like, I really want to. How long have y'all gone to Hero? Have you gone for many years?
Dustin's
You
long.
said?
I'm
Yeah, I
only 2
did.
years myself, but
Yeah, and I
Dustin's
went
longer.
2022 was the only other year that I went, so
Oh,
I've
okay. I
only
was
been
gonna
Oh,
say
3
okay.
years.
this is
Oh,
before
gotcha.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
There was a real silly era when I'm talking about, which is like there was a group of
The smoking
people.
jackets.
Yes, that's what I
Yeah,
was gonna say.
Jamie told us a little bit about
Jamie and
those.
Skottie has somewhat filled us in with the.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
your take on it? We got to hear your take on it though,
And
too,
well,
Jared.
I was I was so far on the outside, I didn't have an
Hmm.
opinion, or know them, who they were, or what that was. Other than that, there were guys going around with smoking jackets and headsets, and people were spending tons and tons of money,
Oh wow.
and I just thought that was so, the art auction just was so cool, and I just
Yeah.
thought, man, one year I want to be able to get into that thing. And then I tried to do a picture, and one year it didn't get in the auction or the Sunday one. So I was like, okay, well, I've got to get in there somehow.
Wow.
And so every year I would try to draw a picture, and then I got into the Sunday one, which is just the general one that they do usually,
Yeah.
for like, because they have so many that come in or whatever.
Mhm.
And then I was like, one year I was like, I have to do something that will, like, big enough that will get me into that room. So I did it was like a almost 4 foot by 3 foot watercolor of
Holy
Superman stopping a train and
Oh my
catching.
gosh, I
He's
would
like in
love to see
Brooklyn,
that.
Yeah.
and
Wow.
there's like a child walking across the street, and Superman is catching this big, like, metro train that's fallen off a rail. I think Shelton bought it. Ended up with it.
Really?
Anyways, I did that, and then it got into the room, and I was like, oh well, now I have to, like, do something better than that. So I did I did a sculpture, a big sculpture of Galactus, and then I used that sculpture, and I painted I think it was maybe 5 foot by, it was huge. It was like a 5 foot by 2.5 foot or 3 foot painting of the convention center with Galactus towering over it. And
That's amazing.
like the Fantastic Four, like,
Holy cow.
I mean, this was
Gosh.
like 2000. This is a long time ago now. Maybe 15, 16 or something like that. And then I did another one of Spider-Man swinging by the convention center, and so every year I've done something. I did a huge. I've always tried to do something big. One year I did a huge life-sized portrait of Jack Kirby, and it did not do very well.
Oh,
I thought,
Oh no.
I'm doing, because I had done those big epics hero ones, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh, I bet people would be into something like these old paintings of like 1880s portraits of people. And I thought, oh, I'll do one of Jack Kirby that's like life size and huge, and it didn't do very well.
Oh,
But
no.
and then I just went back to the superheroes doing things. But yeah, usually I've done something typically where it's like at Charlotte or something, where it's like Charlotte is in the background, and then or it has something to do with the neighborhood around the convention center.
That's super. Yeah, well, we'll definitely because I couldn't
I
find.
found the
Like,
Galactus.
okay, did you find the Galactus? Yeah, I had
Yeah,
trouble
I'm gonna
finding
share it
some
in
of
a
the other
second.
ones. So yeah, we'll definitely have
Oh
to
yeah, there you go. Wow.
find
Oh, that's
those. So.
that's like halfway through
Yeah.
it.
Here, I'll
That's funny.
save it here and pull it up so everybody can see it.
Yeah, you can see the clay model. I put the clay model in the auction too at the time because I was like, oh, what am I going to do with this now?
So you included it with the. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It's
Seth's already calling Doctor Doom for 2026. So
that's a fun idea.
So he can.
That would be neat.
But for anybody wanting to bid on these things, these go for multiple $1,000s in the auction. So make sure and bring your pocketbook whenever you come, because these are go for well worth the price of what they're.
Especially as big pieces. And not to say that
Incredible
your
pieces.
Superman and stuff aren't as big, because those are obviously big, but even these being bigger is just is insane to see some of those paintings in the auction. So
it was kind of a joke amongst me and then a couple of the people who had become family that I was trying to do these giant pictures of, because at the time, this is smoking jacket era, and I'm not judging, I don't care, but like there was a lot of like TNA stuff that was like selling all the big ticket ones, like I mean in like 15, 17,000, whatever, were a lot. It's a comic show, it's just sort of part of it or whatever, and I'm not like judging it, but it was just I was trying to do something really, really big that would at least get close to what, because it was like most things were going for X and then those were going for tons, like way more. So it was like, I was trying to do something that wasn't that, but would also get some kind of a big enough ticket, or some kind of attention. So I feel like it's less the case now. I don't know if it's just the way time and culture is changing or what, but but yeah, anyways, at the time that was the joke amongst me and the people who I was hanging out with, that it was like I was trying to do something to get close to that, because it was like nothing was coming close to those.
It's funny that you say, because when Skottie was on here a couple of weeks ago for our 50th episode, he mentioned by the time that he got to where he would have been part of the Smoking Jackets Club, that there was no longer a Smoking Jackets Club. So it's just like they disappeared right at the wrong time for him. And both, so.
It did disappear. I don't know the story behind it all, but I do know. I remember hearing people having, opinions about it, like not negative, but just like everybody would ask about the smoke. It was like people were talking about it.
That's funny. These are Artist Bullpen has some of and we're not wrapping up the show or anything. I'm just trying to get through these slides so we can see some of Jared's live art. But Artist Bullpen, they represent you for more like con appearances and those type of things, but they do have some art available at the moment if you go to their website.
Yeah, and it's like Firefly, a few pieces like the Mega Man, and then a lot of the your second story, not Cody, Wonder City. So a lot of pages from that as well, and then so
they have all of my Cody stuff. I think we haven't talked about it recently, but we were kind of holding it back until Cody 2 was closer along, even though now it's done.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know, because I was like, man, I'm sure all the Cody stuff is gone. So that makes me super excited that it's not.
It's not totally gone. I mean, a lot of to be totally honest, a lot of the pages with Cody did sell. Like the ones that are like him, doing something where he's very prominent or whatever.
But Cody 2, that
totally makes sense.
New opportunity for you, Tyler, with Cody 2. It sounds like.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, those will be, they'll be out there. I mean, it's coming, coming soon.
Because I was asking Jared about the Usagi pages as well. So, I mean, we're clamoring for these releases that are coming up. So, really looking forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
But these are some places where you can catch Jared.
Yeah. It's all mostly Jared Cullum, his at, tag.
Yeah.
But I still like including him just to, make sure everybody is aware of, YouTube and Facebook, and again Patreon and all that stuff. And then I got your upcoming shows that I saw.
Cool name. Like I feel like a lot of like great French artists have like a cool 1 or 2 syllable nicknames.
I don't know why I was obsessed with it. I found mine, and I go by Lopology. It's because my teacher was talking to me, and he said he said something, and I thought he said lopology, and it's like low topology mixed together, which I thought was cool as a 3D artist. So I was like, oh,
That's very cool.
This is my like handle now, and so.
Kyle's
But now
calling
I
for
got to get the
Usagi
art. I got to
Beaches.
get everything else. But no,
Yeah.
yeah. So
And maybe
Yeah.
you just put like some asterisks over your name or something, Jared, to make it pronounce a
Yeah.
little,
Yeah.
so I can
the
butcher
E,
it.
yeah, the little
Jared or something.
Jared,
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
you had talked a little bit about this earlier, but in February of next
Yes.
year, OA Expo down in Orlando will be taking place. You were announced, I believe, in the wave 3 of artists that were coming out. And
Yeah.
you're on a page full of, I don't know any of those other artists on this page. So to me, Jared, you're the headliner for this page. As
Oh
I say,
gosh. Well,
as you're right next to Andy Kubert. So that's
Well,
some yeah.
But I
But
was
I know
looking too
him.
because. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jared.
I mean, I'm going with the artist bullpen group that I'm going with. I know.
Oh,
like,
cool.
You know, like
Oh.
Tommy Lee Edwards is going with me, and I'm always excited to see him. He's such a fun person. He's the person I was with at Heroes, next to me at Heroes,
Okay.
and I've been next to him at Heroes, and we were at Lightbox last year, and he's a great guy. He's a really great person to table with. Him and then the artist bullpen guys, Sam and Zach, who's the writer for Usagi. He's with artist bullpen as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say I was looking in like Mateo Scalera. He's gonna be there, and
Yeah, and that's not Andy, it's Adam. I said the wrong name, so I apologize. We're just getting all kind of threats tonight for misnaming X-Men artists. So yeah, Adam
yeah,
Kubert,
Sean
so my
Sean
bad.
Crystal. Yeah, there's yeah. I
Sean-
mean,
yeah,
there's just a huge list, obviously, but yeah, it's one that seems to be continuing to gain more and more popularity. So
And I think the tickets are actually limited on how many they sell. So I mean, it's
Oh,
one
really?
that I thought I'd heard that because they want to make I think the artist to participant ratio list. So I'll have to look that up, but I think that the tickets have come close to selling out before in the past. So
Oh, interesting.
I'm surprised. Yeah, Adam Hughes will be there. So Dustin's favorite, not Skottie.
not Skottie. Yeah, no. And Adam's 1B, Scottie's 1A.
But then yeah, then Lightbox as well, October 24th to the 26th. I need to get out to Lightbox at some point.
Oh yeah, especially I mean, like combining those worlds because
Right.
there's not as much comics there, but for animation and gaming, like I imagine you know have a lot of stuff to look at. There's a lot of 3D artists, is what I'm getting at too.
Oh,
so
that's all. No, that's
there's
awesome.
both-
Yeah.
both
The best of
illustration
both worlds,
and
Is that heavily animated? Because I remember when I first heard of Lightbox, it was I think it was Tom Bancroft was
yeah.
visiting there, and
it's mostly animation.
Okay,
At least
I'm
in
not-
my experience. I mean, there's a lot of Illustrator stuff in general, so it's a lot of, or it's a lot of people who are sort of in between all those worlds. I mean, animation, it's so hard to like stay in that world or whatever. Like employed, you know, that there's a lot of people who are like they also do, you know, kids books, and they'll have
Yeah.
like tons of plein air painting, and that was like a big going to animation conferences was a big change for me because I had only gone to like local comic conventions in where I was at the time, which was Richmond, Virginia. And it was great, but it was a lot of what people were doing were more of just like the prints, like, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying it was it would be mostly like I mean, this sounds like this is just what they would do, but it was just like it would be like prints of like a minion dressed like Wolverine or whatever, like stuff like that. I'm not like criticizing.
I love that.
I'm just
No,
saying,
that's-
yeah.
I love that stuff. So
sure, yeah,
Yeah, so
and it's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
when I went to an animation conference, I went to CTN, and there were just like, I mean, stacks of like process stuff, and like so process is much of a bigger part of the like showcase. So you see lots of like plein air paintings for sale or figure drawings or whatever. And so for me earlier on, I was like, oh my gosh, like I think there's just, you know, there's much more of a, you know, because they're trying to get a job in their, you know, in that town, which is like crazy, you know, in Burbank and Pasadena or whatever. So they're constantly putting out work to try to keep up, you know, I think with the industry, and obviously there's a lot of passion there as well. So that to me was like, oh wow, people can produce a lot of work, you know. And I wanted to figure out how to get like that, you know. So that was for me a big turning point was coming back to Richmond and being like, all right, I need to. And I went to like it was like a storyboarding workshop or something. And the guy was like, every day I wake up at 4 a.m. and I plein air paint until I go to the WB studio, and then I plein air paint on my work break, and then I go to figure drawing after, and then I plein air paint on the way home, and then I do master studies until midnight, and then I wake up at 4 a.m. and I was like, oh my God, how do you do that?
Yeah.
It sounds amazing. And and so I've built my life around that, and he could have been lying. It's like he could have been like one of those like influencers now. Where, like, I wake up at 3 a.m. and I eat 12 raw eggs or whatever, and
post the video, just go right back to bed. It's like,
but yeah, I mean, he was saying that to motivate people to be like, if you want to get in, you're gonna have to, compete with me, and and I think there was truth to that. I think it's a tough industry, so I gleaned from that, like, I've got to work harder. I've got to figure out I've got to become a machine, or I'm not going to be able to do anything,
Yeah, Tyler. He's got to become ex machina before. Now, we found out right before you came on, Jared, that I don't know how to pronounce ex machina. So I've been saying Deuce ex machina for the longest time. So Tyler's like, it's ex. I'm not going to say
ex machina.
Machina, down it. There we go. So since you said the machine, I had to throw that in there. I'm sorry.
That's funny.
So I mean, so I have some process stuff, or did you still have more stuff? I mean, I just
we do, but the rest of the stuff is kind of the wrap up stuff.
Yeah.
So just do whatever you want to now. It's you got free reign to do how much or whatever you want to do, man.
Sure, we can talk, a little bit of process or whatever, and I can show some process stuff or draw some, and maybe paint a little bit and talk a little bit about that. General process. So these are pages from Skottie 2, and then these are some concept paintings from Usagi. I have these pages, and then I've varnished these, so they're like they have like a spray varnish on them or whatever to try to keep them nice. But this is the beginning of Skottie 2, which I also just blatantly sort of stole from Ghibli, which is those moments of ma or quietness, where they'll have, just extending the establishing shot, so to speak, into just kind of building the environment for the person to be in. So these are just some
love that,
shots around. The book takes place in Seattle, because the whole process of the first book is them getting to Seattle, and then this, now they're living in Seattle. So I get these watercolor sheets, and then I mark off, where I'm going to draw the panels, and then I draw it, and then I paint it, and then I'll do a little bit of the ink on top. So you can kind of tell, I think, up close that it's the watercolor, because it doesn't quite have the intensity of black ink, but there's at least a little bit of color variation, so I can use like red for the shirt, and if I'm ever doing something, I tend to mix in grays. So this is probably going to get a little bit boring, but
Jared, when you do the watercolor like that and you say you mess up, how do you fix it? Like, how do you fix watercolor that kind of bleeds over the edge? Because I've wondered that whenever I've watched different,
especially with
paint.
like the panels, like getting that's clean, breaks.
Sure. I usually don't necessarily, because I tend to like a lot of the process being part of the final thing, because it's just interesting to me, and I think probably a lot of people would look at my pictures and say that they just look unfinished. But I like leaving, because of that, what we talked about early older Disney films, where in the Xerox era, where it would flicker the drawing. I try to not erase or clean up a lot of mistakes. So like anywhere there's like pencil, I tend to leave it. So if you look up close at the painting, you can see the structure of the drawing, and like places where I decided to move the head a little bit, you can still see like the ghost of the drawing behind the character. And I like to leave those things in it, because I like that part of the process. But if I'm doing an inset thing where it's a panel in a panel, I will tape off the panel.
Okay.
So I use
So you'll mask
tape
it. Okay.
Oh,
to
okay.
mask it,
Yeah.
and then I will paint the one thing and then peel the tape and then paint the next thing. And if it's something that's just an egregious thing, like a pen explodes or something, or
Yeah.
you know, where I get a big splotch of something, then I tend to paint. So for the most part, I paint with watercolor and then opaque watercolor and then gouache. And in the gouache phase, I will just paint over it with opaque. And I've just kind of gotten used to painting a lot with gouache. So I do a lot of like found still life painting and landscape painting, plein air painting with gouache. So I've gotten used to mixing opaque paint enough that I can match pretty close to. So like parts of the face are done with opaque paint. So
Okay.
so you can kind of see, I guess, maybe if I like, maybe not, but if I tilt it, you can
Yeah,
see
Yeah,
some
no,
elements
it's-
are a little bit shiny, and that's the
Mhm.
opaque paint
Yeah.
sitting on top. But I like using the ink outline gives me the opportunity to change focus. I don't know enough about cameras to know the actual term for that, but where the focus is. So like we're focused on her and then we're focused on the characters, and she becomes a little less focused because she's not inked in this panel, and then she goes back to being inked.
So you're
it
doing
sort of is
the
a way
rack focus
yeah,
effect.
to
Okay, that's really cool.
to sort of at least give the illusion of the focus shifting from area to area in the
That's
same
awesome.
way, like I said, just mimicking the idea of animated cells sitting on top of a a page. But a lot of times I will mix using the opposites, so complementary kind of the illusion of grays. So like in a sense where when it's further back, you may see things as a distinct value or color. If you kind of close an eye or look at it sort of where it's blurry, it appears to be a little bit more of a uniform color because I mix within a particular value range, but use the opposite color. So if you look up close at like pictures that I do, I tend to mix the blue by mixing orange directly into the blue, or red directly into the green, or
Wow.
purple directly into the
That's so awesome.
yellow. So if you were to look up close, you can see like little pops of orange.
The splotches. Yeah, I love
and
that.
stuff. And that's just all like wet into wet. And stuff that I've just stolen from art history, just because that's something that Monet and the Impressionists figured out, that you can make an illusion of gray by putting two complements next to one another. Like if you look at Monet's famous haystack paintings, some of them are in Chicago or whatever, but he really exploited that idea of creating a gray shadow, but using blue and orange next to one another at the same value. So I do a lot of that in pictures where I will use two orange and blue as a complement mixed wet into wet at a certain water ratio, so that when when it's further back, it appears to be a kind of shadow in a certain value. But if you were to look up close or look at the the panels, then you can see the split of colors.
Are your scripts pretty tight whenever you're writing these books, for when you're writing Cody 1 or Cody 2, or are they kind of fluid since you're the one that's creating the art as well? Are they more fluid, or do you try to stick to a pretty rigid script on these books?
I stick to a relatively rigid script, although I do all the scripting and dialogue in storyboards. It's the whole process has been very different with Usagi because I'm working with a actually talented writer, and so he does very good dialogue and stuff, and I don't do that. All of my writing, quote unquote, is like a child throwing spaghetti noodles at a wall trying to get something to stick. Like I just
that sounds super creative and fun to me. So.
That's you're in the right crowd for that.
I throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks. So I can't I've never looked into it, so I don't know like why, but I can't see letters very well. So I have a hard time physically writing letters. It just takes more concentration. I have to be very conscious and slow down. Like lettering has been very hard because I have to be very cautious to make sure the letters are in the right, order and are working, because I just have a hard time seeing letters. I don't know why. But I see pictures very clearly. It's always been that way, and I've always gotten in trouble for that ever since I was a kid, because I can take notes much faster and more coherently to me if I can draw the notes in a small pictures, which always looked when I was a kid like I was just not listening. But
Yeah.
to me, it was way more clear if I could just draw a picture of the thing, because I can see pictures very clearly in my head, but I can't see letters very well. So, though, if you had to call it a process, the writing thing I do is basically what would be called storyboarding. Of just like I
Yeah.
just draw a lot of pictures and then try to apply words to them as they play out in my head. And the
Yeah.
general process for me is like I can see a series of pictures very clearly in my head, and then the difficult part is stitching them together. So
Got
it's
it.
been really nice working with Zach, who is a very talented writer, and he can write very, very concisely and clearly. And like that's part of his like job is in writing in general. So he writes all the time. So he's very good at like being both concise and writing words. So I can basically, part of the process of writing is like I just pitch to him like a fever dream of pictures that I'm like, okay, I see this, and then he's doing this, and then I don't know why. I'm like, they're here and they're doing this, but I don't know why. And then I could see like this, and they're doing this, and they have this, and I don't know why. And then in like an hour, he'll come back with like 10 pages of like a coherent story of the reason why they've gone from this to this to this. So my contribution to the writing aspect has been a whole lot of just pitching a lot of different ideas, and then he helps me refine them and then he writes the story as well. So parts of the story as well. We both have been writing the story back and forth. It's been mostly like outlining, and then like I go and storyboard, and then I like basically pitch them to him, and then he and I have a great relationship too, which has been really nice in that we both are honest with each other and communicate well, which has been good, because we've managed to find a good balance where I can pitch something and he can tell me that does not work at all, and I don't get my feelings hurt, and I can tell him like I don't know if they would say that, and he would be like, okay, well, try this, or and that's worked really well.
Well, I love that your process, and I appreciate you sharing that, like having that, not road like a road bump almost, if you will, of of having that issue of not necessarily being able to write words as much, and then being able to do it imagery. It's kind of similar because I'm colorblind, so you describing color and stuff is so interesting to me, because that's my area where I have to slow down and take into consideration that inability to see colors properly, to then be able to translate that to whatever thing I'm working on. So it's cool to then hear that with you, and how you translate words and imagery, and then use that to write in a sense your story, and do it that way. So it's really cool.
I wonder if you have like an inherent strength with value structure in general, like structuring because that's I spend a lot of time thinking about the black and white image first, and then like how the value reads. And I would imagine like not having the being less encumbered, I guess, by the local color. I wonder if that would make it worse or better. Is it more gray, or can you see the black and white better? Would be
no, it's definitely something I've thought of, and because I love hearing people who work through values and then will do colors on top of that, rather than like they separate it out rather than having it joined together and doing it that way. And that's definitely something that's appealed to me, and something I want to practice with, is working with values more so, and then being able to do the color on top of it. So
cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
this is incredible. The imagery in the background. I had pulled the laptop up just so I could see a good picture of the car and the behind the scenes. So just the stuff you've got going on in the background is as impressive as the fight that's happening on top of the car there in the foreground of it. Incredible.
Thanks. It's mostly just sort of cubes of shapes. But yeah, so this is a concept. So watercolor, and then gouache, and then I use pastel on top for like, a lot of times I'll use pastel for like the ambient color notes. So if it's a warm ambient color, I'll use like a yellow ochre or like a burnt kind of orange color. And then when it's something in shadow, I will use like a blue, sort of like a cerulean type blue, or something a little more white. But but it's the same kind of thing where I mix the orange and the blue together to get this sort of darker gray. And this was one of the initial pitch ideas. So I was doing these things as a sketch. I was invited to this plein air painting event, and I had saw this car, and I thought it was so cool, and because it's just like this little like box, and it looked like kind of something out of a Pixar film. It was like this cute little box or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is so cool, and I did a sketch of it. I have the sketch, and I can't reach it. I have one of them in here. I did from the event. So I sketched, there it is. So here's one of them. So there was just this little car.
That's great.
And I just thought it was so cool. And I did a sketch of it, and I looked it up, and it was a 1984 Rabbit, Volkswagen Rabbit. And
What are the odds?
so yeah, and this was like a year ago, and so all of this ramp up was happening for both Usagi and TMNT, where they were talking about the 40th anniversary coming up, and all this mention of 1984. And I saw this 1984 Rabbit, and then I and I have one of these too now, of course.
I think I saw that in one of the photos. That makes sense. Okay.
Light model, quote unquote, that I absolutely need. And I had that one, and then I bought this one too because it was just for the color. But so I could look at it outside or sketch it outside and get just something close to an approximation of the color, a little bit better than just trying to wing it, So I did some sketches of like what I remembered of the 1980s, because I was born in the 80s, so I didn't culturally experience a lot of the 80s. But what I do remember of the 80s was like my own father, who like his like uniform was like really high shorts, really high socks up to his knees, like tennis shorts and a polo, and like I remember like bigger hair on people and stuff like that, and so big white clunky shoes, So I did a bunch of these little kind of sketches of that car with the Usagi cast, in that kind of thing, like a polo, super tight polo, really high shorts, high socks, and stuff like that. Really baggy sweater and high jeans, really high up to the the stomach, and stuff that I remember like in my own mind's eye of the 80s. And I sent it to a couple of friends of mine who are like this guy David, who's a friend of mine, who's a Usagi fan, who's a friend from over the years, and then Zach, who's the writer on the book. And they were like, you've got to pitch this to Stan. And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, they literally like dug it out of the trash can, because I was like, I cannot ever show them this stuff. It's like too embarrassing, because they'll be like, what are you doing? Like, so I did a bunch of concept sketches then, just for fun, and that was what ended up being the book. So we ended up, when we pitched the idea to them, that was the idea of like what happens, and we have the story, which they're going to reveal more of it, but I think after New York Comic Con. But basically, it's this this character in the 1980s, which is like a very specific cultural moment in Japan, where there was a lot of money and a lot of like, it was a big economic boom then. So there's like a lot of stuff was happening in Japan in the 1980s. And so I just thought like how fitting it would be if, the character was cruising around like Osaka or Tokyo in this old, rabbit or whatever. So
such
I
a
love
nice
that.
touch.
These are, gosh, I mean, these are just such, just such striking images too, that I really love, that you were able to capture specific moments like this. That, and I assume that helps really sell what you're going to try and get out of the comic itself. I mean, I can see why your friends were like, you need to pitch this stuff. It's like they could see it, and then hopefully, and obviously they were then able to see it to then allow you to move forward with the comic. So
I think so much of that just comes from Stan's just brilliant shape design, and just deep understanding of silhouette, cartoon character composition, page arrangement, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm a big fan of the series in general. So
right.
A lot of that stuff, I think, when it comes to striking imagery and stuff, is standing on the shoulders of a giant, in that it's I didn't design the character, so it's we just sort of changed the fabric a little bit. That was something else that attracted me to the 1980s too, in comparison two drawing stuff from Edo era Japan, because I've done a number of covers for Usagi now,
Yeah.
and something that jumped out to me was like thinking of the 80s. There's a lot of like big bulky fabric, like in general fashion,
Yeah.
and it's kind of the same with like Edo era clothing, where everybody has these
True.
like
The
the
billowy clothes.
yeah, they're very baggy in a sense, but very beautiful and formal too. So there's both Edo era Japanese fashion and then 1980s fashion. There is an epic quality to just how bulky and flowing and characteristic the fabrics are, which I have found super interesting and fun to draw.
Well,
Right.
and going back to, I think Dustin was going to say it, but you talking about standing on giants and stuff. Again, there's still the ability you have to be able to understand what that artist
Yes.
originally was doing and intending with their art and stuff. Like you kind of talked about, there's fan art where you'll see it and it doesn't directly connect, or it just doesn't really get across what that person was wanting, whereas your stuff does. And again, your friend saw that just because you can see your passion for the story and the characters and how you translated that through your own eyes and through your own experiences and your own art. So
Yeah, it resonates very well. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
the
So
familiarity, but still
right to the
in
source.
the style that you like with watercolor and everything. So
Yeah, I'm sure Stan. I mean, just for us looking at these pieces here and seeing some of the pieces that you've did in the past of Usagi, I mean, it seems like it was almost meant to be for you to do this issue. Do you know how many pages it's going to be yet? Have you all decided for this issue itself?
So I think in terms of like the longevity, I think that it's sort of a wait and see how it goes
Okay.
with the audience. But it's the series that we're doing now is 5 20-page books.
Oh, sweet. That's great.
So that's the main idea. I mean, we have obsessively written, I don't know, we're up to probably like 20 now in terms of like issues
that's
of like
awesome.
Oh,
and all
man, that
different
would be
kinds of
great.
tree branches of ideas
Yeah.
we have, and these different, because both of us have like we've read the saga, we've read all the old series, so like there's all this stuff we want to do that's like Easter eggs to the old stuff, and we've had to cut a lot to get into these 5 books and to get it to 5 books, and then
Yeah.
we have a lot of stuff that both of us have a lot of ideas, so we've spent a lot of time just like pitching general ideas to each other, like what if they do this and then do this, and then there's a lot of the elements, this story elements that we want to like initially in the concept art. So like in these concept sketches, for example, like he has the willow branch, and so he carries 2 swords in the old in the series, and in the Edo era he has 2 swords, and I mean they all do. And in our series, in the initial pitch, he had these swords, and it was part of his sort of like character and lineage and all this stuff. And then I had realized that it felt a little bit like you just sort of get everything right out of the gate, and I wanted people to really experience through the character the growth and process of finding these elements and artifacts. So like one thing that we did for the character in our story is that we did away with the sword initially. So in the concept art, he this is by the way, like my idea sketchbook for it.
Okay, that's awesome.
And so
yeah, be fun to flip through that thing just to
so
Oh,
like
wow, yeah.
initially we had
baggy pants.
yeah.
That's great.
So initially he had like a sword, and then we sort of went back and forth on like what kinds of stuff he would have. And then I had decided that I felt like Zach and I both felt like we wanted it to be a part of the adventure and the process, that like he is unearthing this thing, and we, the viewer, especially like longtime fans of the series, are unearthing these elements from the original series as we go through it. So seeing old friends or faces, and then discovering things like the lineage of the sword, which is like so the willow branch is like his sword in the series. So we, the viewer, have to go on this journey with him to sort of like discover these things.
Is
Well,
this
before you turn off that page, no, I just want to make sure I caught that, Tyler. Now the bones. Did you do like the structural components of the bones of Usagi himself in that top right corner? Or
Yes.
yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
what.
right.
I
I
didn't
forgot.
mean to interrupt you, Tyler. I just before you got
No,
off
no, you're
that
good.
page, I
Yeah.
wanted to see those. I mean, that's
Yeah,
pretty
so
impressive that you.
I do a lot of that in general for the things I'm drawing. I think that came from just my general process of practicing. When I lived in Richmond, there was this probably thought I was a lunatic, but there's like a taxidermy shop that had
Yeah.
a tons of animal skeletons, and I used to go there a lot and just sit and draw like a dog skeleton and any other kind of skeleton I could, and just draw it in 300, like just move
Yeah.
the chair a couple inches and draw it again, and then a couple inches and draw it again, or paint
That's
it as
so
many times as I
awesome.
could.
I mean, it's a
So
fascinating, the skeletal,
Yeah, I didn't
so
mean to
part of
interrupt you, Tyler. I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to catch that page before you flipped away from
Well, I
it.
was just going to ask, just in terms of the story, are there things you're doing that you have to get, permission from, like in terms of like anything you add, or like, if you kind of want to expand on something that maybe hadn't been expanded upon before?
The canon that's in there.
Yeah, just kind of considering all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we're both being big fans of the original series. We wanted to make sure that whatever we do, it doesn't rock the boat at all.
Yeah.
So nothing changes anything canon wise. This is what I meant by a lot of like location sketches of just
Yeah.
random environments and things
I
like
love
that.
Yeah.
That's great.
But I had one page the wire model for the maquette.
Cars too are
Is in here
fantastic.
somewhere. Yeah, like food, again, like
Yeah,
I
so-
said, like studying food so that all the food feels,
Authentic. Yeah.
real and tangible. I thought I had the wire model, but yeah, so we everything that we have in the series doesn't rock the boat in terms of canon. So we're not tampering with anything that has to do with like the original. However, anything that we're doing is all through Stan. So like we're not just like winging this thing and then like he's just going to see it. It's all stuff that
That's cool.
it all goes through Stan. So we can't like, I wouldn't turn around and be like, now Usagi is a raccoon or whatever. They would,
He rips the mask off.
yeah,
Finally
he unzips.
revealed.
Yeah.
He unzips and he's actually or whatever.
A wolf and
no,
rabbit's
like
brother.
there you go.
yeah, everything is like pitched
Yeah.
extensively between Zach and I, who are both like, I don't know what you'd call it, like loyalists to the original.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anytime
that's
one of
fair.
us has been like, what if he did this thing or whatever, the other one will typically be like, I don't know, man, I don't think that would fit with the original or whatever. So we've been very strict on that between each other, and then we pitch to Justin, our editor, and then he shows it to Stan. So I mean, we and they're so friendly and so kind, and everything's been such a wonderful experience to work with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've made sure, both of us from the get-go, that nothing is rocking the boat. We're not adding anything or changing the original. So,
but I'm sure that
yeah.
came through in the pitch too, and why I'm, just speaking on behalf, I'm sure that came through, and they saw that and were like, oh, they, to respect, the story and the characters, they saw that coming through, and like you said, your devotion to keeping to, the original, just everything, the history to it is important to you. So
yeah, and I certainly hope that they, So this, by the way, I was going to say, just to point it out, this is I tend to do this for every character, just so you understand it. I mean, you probably know it's like working with 3D, like understanding the cube, and then being able to rotate that cube. So getting then the character modeled in a kind of, and I have the same for the cars and for each character, especially ones that I sculpt, and then I just like put wire on this basically, form it to these points, and then sculpt the character on top. But yeah, just feel like figuring out the exact head length and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and that goes across for any of the characters, but these are just some of the general like concept sketches of just like different places that we want the story to be around, you know, like different elements. Like once we had decided on Osaka being the city that we wanted it to be in, it's been just a whole lot of sketching from Osaka. And the writer on the book, Zach, goes to Japan frequently, so
Oh, awesome.
he has, you know, developed a large cache of reference photos that
Yeah.
I've been able to
Yeah.
borrow. And
That's super
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, like, and it's also just a sort of exploration of like, what would the cars and traffic look like, and like what do the police look like, and how would they interact, and with people. So like figuring out, I have some of the you know, and like what would they look like in the environments too, just like you know, the industrial areas, like what kinds of poles, and then most importantly, I think, is like the shape language of the environment that you're drawing. So like Seattle or Osaka or whatever, like most places have like a kind of shape language to them. And that was something that attracted us to Osaka in particular, is because it has such a specific kind of like flavor and shape language in terms of the way the buildings are, and the combination of old and new together is something that we both found really interesting, and something that, you know, there's a lot of room to play with in terms of the design phase.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of this kind of thing too, just like what would the
I love
firefighters look like in the background, and what do the police cars look like, or what do the police look like, and you know, what different kinds of police, like if there's like a motorcycle police officer versus like a traffic, and then like what also it's been fun to think through like the animals, because one thing I have been a little bit playful with is thinking through the fact that it is in the 80s, so it's much more of like a it's much more of like an integrated world, I think. So I've been a little bit more like open with the types of dogs or whatever, you know, like there's like in the regular one, there's plenty of different kinds of dogs. That's not like a new thing. But it's been fun to like think through like, what would a husky look like, or a, you know, a pincher, or a, you know, German shepherd or something. Like this one is supposed to be like a German shepherd
Okay.
type, you know, with like a little you know, also like what kind of cultural things could influence, because there's in the 1980s
of hair up there for the German Shepherd.
Yeah, well, like in the 1980s, there was a lot of you know, punk rock and mod, and those cultures had a big influence there too. And so there were like, you know, mopeds. There's like whole genres of manga about 1980s, you know, moped gangs and mod influence type stuff, or punk influence. Punk was like a big thing too over there. So you know, how can we kind of integrate those cultural aspects with different, you know? So I had like, to me, these were like a kind of mod influenced moped gang of these dogs, you know, which a lot of those elements were carried on, but not all of them. So you know, it will be different in the final, but you know, like the jacket is less refined in the final than the one in the concept art, which is like a little more, you know, that was like something like the emblem is something that I wanted to be earned, and not just you know, because he in the series, it is something that he earns, you know, and he develops through his own sort of, you know, chosen path and relationship to Katsuichi, and relationship to his heritage of when he fought for the army, and his leader, you know, this is how he became like a wandering samurai, and his leader was killed in battle, and he, you know, he earned it. Like there's so much depth to that character and background that it felt a little bit cheap to just like, and he starts out with it's like, you know, starting out like a Zelda game, and you start with all the cool tunics and the master sword and everything. It was like, we wanted it to be something we can all experience together and grow with this character, you know.
When I would assume too, you're taking into account people who may not be familiar with, you know, or haven't had the chance to read, you know, Usagi before, so maybe like it's kind of that stepping stone, if you will, or stepping point.
Yeah, exactly. That too. Like, that was something else we had talked a lot about, because both of us are such like lifelong fans. You know, how do we do this thing that isn't so much of a deep cut that we lose people issue one because they're like, what are they referencing? You know, so we're like trying to have it so that it's open to new readers, but also um, each, like a lot of aspects of it, both like structurally, compositionally, or just literal notes or jokes will be references to the original.
Yeah,
So
that's a fine line too, but paying respect to people that have been on since forever and somebody that's starting to read it day one to try to appease both audiences, that had to be a pretty fine tightrope to walk.
yeah.
And I can be honest with that too, because I unfortunately have not read Usagi yet. I've known of it for years, and it's been one of those things where I'm like, I'm going to read that eventually, and I'll get to it. But I just have not yet gotten to it. So it'll be interesting because I'm definitely looking forward to picking this up, and then also diving into the previous works and everything. So
it's really great. I mean, there's so much there to read. I mean, I envy you that you get to kind of like start that journey and get to read the book. Especially if you want to start from the beginning, because they're really great. It's a great long running series, and he does a lot of stuff that I think you'll appreciate, where he will do stuff that like there's one issue that's one of my favorite issues, of course, and I think a lot of like the deep cut like fans of the series would say it's probably their favorite too. But he has one issue where he just does a tea ceremony, and it's just that's all that happens. There's no greater epic that happens where he's trying to save whatever princess. They just have this culturally accurate, like that's something that we really liked and we wanted to have integrated in some way, which is like to be able to have stuff that was like culturally relevant to Japan, but also in having taking place in the 1980s as well. Like what would that look like?
No, for sure. I mean, and it's one of the great things about discovering stuff like that. I mean, again, in being introduced to Spirited Away and Studio Ghibli and things that I didn't catch when I was younger that I now watch, and I'm like, oh, I'm not familiar with that. And just that, again, it piques that interest in discovering those things about different cultures and finding out things you hadn't known. Being somebody who doesn't live over in Japan or something like that, or didn't grow up in the 80s or just whatever have you. So
Sure.
It is really cool to see the combination of those two. And like you said, that, to have those moments that, yeah, it's not, saving a princess, but this is something that's still just as important for a certain culture, a certain group of people, and then being able to, understand that or to better understand that. So.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, you're fast, Jared. This is coming together real quickly.
Oh, well, thanks. That's that 10 drawing him 10,000.
I was going to ask you, is this
Yeah.
how you generally draw, or is this more so because you're so familiar with Usagi at this point, or Usagi?
Yeah, this is how I generally draw. I mean, I don't tend to hold the pencil. I do most drawing like reverse script because I think you get better like flowing lines, and I lean on the flowing lines a lot more. But yeah, this is about how this is how, I mean, in general, yeah, this is how I draw, I guess.
Well, I meant more so, sorry, in terms of like, some people like laying out their circles or someone getting like the gesture lines and stuff. But you just went, dive right into, just starting with the head and filling out from there. So
that's I do a lot of thinking about that initially. And then in the actual drawings, a lot of times when I go in and draw I have put my time in on that. So I'm not saying I don't do that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to look like I'm just like, it feels cheap to just say like, oh yeah, I just
pulling it
put
out
a blindfold on and wing it. But in a setting like this, which is like a low threshold, because this is just in a sketchbook, and this is how I generally sketch in a sketchbook. So like I like to draw with wax pencils, so usually I'll get a couple different colors, and that way I can draw like, because I really enjoy drawing a series of like him jumping or like flipping or something, and then in my mind playing it out, and then like maybe he's landed like this, but maybe we could like do him jumping beforehand or something. I really enjoy doing that, or especially when I can do two together. If I could draw one in yellow and then one in red, and then one in blue. And as the value of the pencil gets a little bit darker, it makes it, it stands out a little more.
Yeah, you're making your own tweens. You're tweening with your color choices. So that's really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So like, I like thinking through like, okay, so if he did that, then like, what did he do just before that? He probably would have jumped. But I like drawing with these wax pencils. If he's jumping, then maybe that would be a little lower. Like I really enjoy thinking through that and the fabric, like what the fabric would do. The shoulders would, like the shoulders would probably lift if he's jumping, and we could give him the kind of funny. Like I spent so much time drawing. There's sort of kind of two phases that the face is typically drawn in, and Stan. This is part of like the mastery rather of Stan's work that makes him so special and deceptively genius is in simplicity, is that there's sort of like a standard angry face Usagi, which has these sort of like the downturned brow and the tighter eyes, more intense expression. But he has a lot of in the series, if you read the series, he has a lot of these scenes where he's just eating in a like cafe or talking to people, and they're not as intense, And so what I found is like, I had drawn Usagi with, maybe he's like looking down now if he's jumping into action or whatever. So what I found was I had been drawing in the sketchbook, and then I felt like I had got a handle on Usagi, and I was like, okay, like it's coming together. I'd done a number of covers, and he's typically in some form of action, so there's some sort of sharpness to the character. And then I was like, oh, and I'll just draw him like eating noodles real quick, and I was like, it just came out like a child's drawing. And then I tried again and again, and it took me like tons of drawings to get used to drawing Usagi not in a relaxed face.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the mastery. Maybe he's got, what would you probably have your, elbow. And but yeah, I really enjoy like in the sketchbook, and then if he's either the jacket would be down, or maybe we have it kind of flapping back. But I like drawing with these wax pencils because they're much more like, I find, flowy, and like they're just softer. They don't scritch at all when you're drawing. So we'll draw his pants. They don't, they're very soft and easy to draw with. The downside of them is you can't erase. So like the sort of the skill of drawing with them becomes, embracing. This is part of that one of those exercises I was talking about, where it's like, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I just sort of move through it and allow it to be integrated, which is a big part of the process, which I usually like preserving in an image. But in the Usagi stuff, we're trying to keep it much more tighter. So I've been in the Usagi book erasing more, like using a kneaded eraser. So in the Usagi book, I've been drawing with a pencil. Maybe I have the feet sort of closer together. I've been how's some action lines. So in the Usagi book, what I've come to really like doing is I will draw it with a HB pencil and then roll a kneaded eraser on it, and then draw it again, and then roll a kneaded eraser, and then draw it again. Which I don't know if that works with the wax. It might work a little bit with the wax.
So yeah, I've never seen it lifts it a little. Or
usually, with the HB, it'll nuke it. It just erases it.
Oh yeah, it's like gone. You almost got to be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not doing anything. So you can't really go back. But I like that that's part of it. I think that it makes for a more interesting drawing. But I like with multiple colors, we could do like think through. If I take you're not going to be able to see the orange. Let's see.
You can see a little bit.
You can still.
That's too similar. So like with the orange, I could think through like, maybe what if instead of having his knee
Oh,
bent right
yeah.
before the knee bends, what would it could flare out maybe and then sort of point down. Maybe you would
I love that. Yeah.
probably point your toe down, but trying to develop and maintain proportion.
Yeah.
And then like maybe his before he bent them, like what would you do? Try to kind of act out that thing. Maybe drop the deltoids and throw the arms back. So like the initial jump, for example. Now I'm really putting your viewers to sleep, but
No, I would hope not. I mean,
Yeah, this
granted,
is what they
if
paid
maybe
for.
if you're not as creative or artistic, but I mean, it's just to be able to see this thought process that goes into the things we love reading, because it's so easy to you pick up a comic and you read it, 10, 15 minutes, whatnot, and then like you go to the next or something, you kind of put it down. But this is to see, what goes through your mind and your process of what goes into those final pages that we see, I think is much more of an appreciation, I would hope, for people. So
Yeah, for people that like watching like movies that have director commentaries or anything
Yeah.
like this is right up our alley. This is the stuff that this is why we do the show. This is the stuff we love. So,
exactly.
so thank you
Yeah.
for doing this for us.
so like, well, thank you guys. So like we could think through the the drama of like what he could be doing, and like you said, tweening it a little bit, like thinking through like the motion and the action. Like I really enjoy doing that because you can think a lot about like what the fabric's gonna do, what's the better storytelling moment, and also just like how do we regulate proportion and the geometry, the cube geometry. I spent a lot of time thinking obviously about the cube geometry and how to move that around
in space. Yeah.
Exactly, rotating that or moving that around in space.
And sorry for people who don't know what the word tweening is, an animation term, right? That's where I became familiar with it, is the in between frames. So you have your big moments, your big pauses, from sitting to stand, jumping or something, and then the in between, drawings they would do to then, bridge those two drawings together to create that motion. So it's just the word between, but yeah, they referred to it as tween or tweening. So
I was too embarrassed to ask. I had no idea.
No,
what you were talking
please,
about,
please do, if there's something.
So you would have a key frame, like the main, like the moment of action or whatever could be like your key frame of action. That's the key, and then you'd have two or three. You'd have your different keys, and then your in betweens would be. And there was a job. You could be an in betweener. Where it's still a job, but you would draw the frames in between, the keyframes. So let's see.
I think it'd be for anybody that follows Jared too on Instagram. You had mentioned before that some of these sketches that you do like this, like the preliminary and the stuff, you put for sale up on Instagram.
Yeah.
So if anybody doesn't follow you, I highly recommend.
Seth's got one of them. So
yeah, Seth picked up a great.
Which one did he do? Is
it the Superman?
Oh yeah, Seth, if you're watching.
Oh yeah, fun.
I think that's the one, if I'm not mistaken.
I get they're really fun. I tend to do them on request at shows where I really enjoy this process. So this is that like process over product. So it's almost like I almost prefer it to drawing a final commission sometimes, because it's kind of fun to think through it. And sometimes people will pick a really interesting character. Like someone had me they wanted to have, I was buying sketchbooks, but I go through them so fast. It was more economic to just buy found the company and I just buy the paper in bulk. And
nice.
So the paper itself is 18 by 24, and then I cut it in half now. So draw like a pocket. So these are 12 by 18, and then I had someone at Heroes wanted two of them overlapping with the same thing, this idea of the multiple colors, and they wanted to have Lodos War, which is like a old anime, and that was super fun.
Nice.
Think of, and one year someone had me do Link and Zelda, but specifically from Link to the Past. So that was super fun to me, because that game was a huge part of my childhood. So I really loved, I guess Ocarina of Time was probably you know, because of the invention of
Yeah.
3D graphics or whatever was such a big part,
Such a
a big
jump,
change, a
yeah.
shock, you know, or whatever.
hmm
But I really was obsessed with Link to the Past when I was a kid. So it was really fun getting to do like a bunch of sketches of him jumping and just thinking through. I really enjoy that process of thinking through the thickness and of form and fabric and like we were saying about just, you know, generating generating the like figuring out where it sits in the cube and then generating those cube rotations, which is more or less what I see when I'm drawing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'll
It's
do a little paint on
and
one.
you don't have
No,
you don't have as much. Do you have a background in like anything three? I know you've like done some sculpting and stuff, but is there any other 3D stuff, or is that just you
No.
think how you kind of just view things? Again, going back to that you brought up earlier.
No, I've never done anything with no, I just got like really obsessed with drawing perspective and
Mm.
because it was so hard and like when I was coming into drawing I could like basically it was drawing stick figures. They were just sort of like essentially Roblox characters.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't draw
That's
people. So I was sitting in cafes and drawing like, you know, this and hair or whatever for people and I was trying really hard and I wanted to understand how people, you know, understood 3D, were able to draw 3D things, and especially people who could create 3D out of their imagination, like Kim Jung Gi, you know,
Mm.
and just like how do they do that? I mean, like he was one of those, you know, if we're honest, he was one of those touched by God people, but you know, I heard him in a lecture talk about like, you know, he was being very like, you know, cheeky about it or whatever, but he was like, oh yeah, you know, you just draw a cube and then you like just put the thing in it, this like insanely complex battleship
Yeah,
or
his
motorcycle or
I was gonna say,
whatever. And he was
that-
like, yeah, you know, you just picture a cube and then, you know, put it in it. And I was like, is that it? Like, you know, how,
it's as
you know,
simple as that.
yeah. And so I got really obsessed with drawing rotating cubes, and then understanding too, like just the basic principle of, you know, if you have a cube, just a quick random drawing lesson. I know I'm really going to lose a lot of your people, and I'm sorry about that. But
I mean, they've been honestly holding pretty steady. So
yeah. We're not worried about them, Jared. Just focus on me and Tyler. we're enjoying this more than we should. So
if we have if you have a cube, you could draw anything, essentially, and multitudes of that thing. And so essentially, like once we have the square and some kind of a horizon line and a dot, a vanishing point of sorts, and then if we trace that back and we create a cube, well, if you go back to that Usagi I had in the sketchbook that was like cut up into measurements of a cube, right? So like we have the halfway point of the cube. And on the car, it's a particular part of the door I know. And I know that the car is 6 wheels long. So like the car, I shouldn't put a pin in my mouth. You're not going to hear me. The car is 6 wheels long, you know? So I know, and I know roughly where the halfway point is. And this would be the same if it was a bicycle or something, you know? And then a person, if we had a person, am I still on camera?
yeah.
You know, roughly 2 heads either way, about 6.5, 7 to the feet. Down, halfway point would be about roughly the asis or the front of the hip, where the hip curves and then points, and then you have a 3-fingered gap to the top of the where the quadriceps sits. So just the point is the halfway point is the hips, and then if we cut that in half, that's the knees. You know, so from that, I can build out a person, and the rib cage is roughly here, and that's where the elbows are, right? So from those basic measurements, we have a person. And then in this case, we have a car, which has, you could cut it in half or you could cut it in thirds and figure out where that is. And then if we just draw a cube anywhere on this paper, in theory, we can translate those measurements, right? So halfway point would be the asis, or the front of the hips, rather. And then half of this would be where the knees are. And so we could build out a person. I should do this with ink. Or, you know, anthropomorphic rabbit person with the head lengths. And their hips go here. and their knees would be the halfway here. So our person is right here. We can make him Tyler. And
I feel honored.
and then if we go back into 3D space, we carry that measurement over. We could just draw another cube.
Yeah.
And then just translate approximately where the hips are and the knees and the things. So if you understand the cube, then you can draw whoever. We can make this Titans. There, we can make it Dustin.
I'm not quite a little bit. It makes me look smaller than Tyler. I like that. And I was drawing along for the people at home just to see. It is not.
I thought that's what you were doing. Yeah, I think.
Nice.
It is not as easy as Jared makes it look. Jared is like his looks like. I'm almost there. I was just saying this is a good lesson for him.
So you can draw that cube back and move it left and right, and you can fill out a whole Manhattan crowd scene, or draw the car or whatever. Like you could just knowing where the top and the bottom would be to the eye level. We could draw out falling these back, and then if I know roughly where the back is, I know it's 6 tire lengths, so I could fill out that form and create a car. And it's kind of the same for anything that's like hard to draw, like a horse or whatever. Is once if you study the skeleton, and this is why I just spend a lot of time doing the maquette or drawing the skeleton, then you can rotate that thing. So if we were to extrapolate this even further and get real crazy with it, if we have a horizon line that's off to the side, and then our cube goes to 3 vanishing points or 2 vanishing points.
You're losing me, Jared.
Keep up.
I gave up on.
Then we could, in theory, if I'm like a bird's eye view or whatever, if I have that vanishing point and I know roughly those measurements, and the halfway point is the hips or whatever, and then the bottom is the feet.
Sorry.
They're getting scrunched, and then the head up here, then we could draw a person, from a bird's eye view.
Oh, I see what you mean. That's no joke. My daughter watches these videos for some reason with me and Tyler, but she loves art and she loves to draw, and this is such a great lesson for anybody that's like, well, even for somebody like me that has no artistic ability, for someone that does and is trying to learn this perspective that you're doing. This is really helpful. This is really
cool.
I know you said you're putting people to sleep, but no, this is fascinating to me.
So yeah, and then and we could just extrapolate from there, right? So like the box or the car or whatever next to him or something, or if he's walking a dog or something, that dog also sits inside of a cube. Everything in your mind can sit in a cube. And then when I'm drawing something like, say, the character jumping or something, in my mind, I'm just thinking, okay, well, he's above our eye lines, so these lines would tilt back in 2 point, and then this cube would just rotate. So in my mind, I'm just sort of picturing the head in this cube and the body roughly in this cube, and then I can fill those things out, kind of thinking through that form 3-dimensionally, and then extrapolating from there whatever would happen. Like, essentially once you figure that out and you understand basic forms, like fabrics essentially are just, I don't know if I'm still on camera or not, but like fabrics are essentially just like if you took like a soda can or a cylinder, and then you just put a cloth on that, it's either draping over it or it's twisting around it. So fabric in a sense is like, if we were to put like an arm, this could be like a forearm, and a shirt tends to twist around the forearm. So when you're drawing a shirt, is you would just picture in your mind, cube, cut a cylinder into the cube, and then that fabric, you just picture like a twisted soda can, just and visualize the twist there, and then gravity as well. So once it hits the ground, it would of course bulge out like this, you know. And you can draw, you know, fabric. So I spend a lot of time thinking about that. So I'm just thinking about cylinder and then putting in this case a chunky piece of fabric on it and twisting it or rotating it. Or my favorite thing, which is like allowing the wind to push it around, which is kind of one of my favorite storytelling tools, which is just taking and thinking through the process of like, you know, okay, so the wind is blowing hard to the left, or maybe it's rainy or something, and how would that make the fabric heavier or something? And then like if the wind is like his ears are blowing, and then maybe his shirt or pants would blow in the same direction. But yeah, we could just put a little color on it too.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out too. I'm showing your Gumroad link here because you do. I brought it up, or we had an image of it earlier. Some of the classes you'll teach online classes that people can go a part of, and you have some on your Gumroad of like some painting demos and stuff you've gone through. So for anyone interested and finds this stuff fascinating and wants more, you have more that people can go find. So
yeah, I really love teaching. I love talking about this stuff, especially the traditional media, because it is sort of a kind of a dying thing, you know, and I'm very passionate about it. So you know, I love talking about especially traditional art personally. So in my sketchbook, this is what I would do. It's more like the playground, and something where I can sort of be a little bit more experimental with the color I'm putting down, and play a little bit with, because I have to play a little bit with water ratios, because I don't quite have the luxury of, like on a finished watercolor paper, you could do a lot of like wet into wet heavy work. So now what I tend to do is I go to sort of the very basic. I just taught last night, so I have a little
let's say you had your class yesterday.
Yeah, I had a class yesterday.
That's right.
So this was just like showing painting eggs in a variety of light sources. So like cold light, and then half and half cold warm, and then warm with cold ambient, and then translating that to form. So like subsurface scatter form, and then also just like found objects. So like just, you know, but the idea is the same as the eggs I showed, which is just taking the object that is and removing yourself from the awareness of what the object is and thinking more about the form. In this case, the sphere is an egg, you know. So at this stage in the process, it is I'm trying to remove myself from the awareness that it's a cartoon character, an anthropomorphic rabbit, and I'm trying to get in the headspace of, this is a sphere and those were cylinders. This is all one long cylinder, so there's going to be you know, we'll decide it's lit from this side maybe. So what would then happen is we'll have bounce light, so I can start thinking through that process where light hits and bounces back up. So maybe it's bouncing up into these lower regions here. And it's a white local color shirt, so it would get a lot of bounce light on it. And any of the planes that face down, you know, thinking like three-dimensionally, like you mentioned before. So thinking about that, any planes that point towards the ground are going to catch. So the brow ridge here, which is part of why I think it's good to study the basic forms in the skeleton, is because you're thinking through those. It's trying to reduce the complexity of the character to just what is the basic shapes that we're looking at, and that's the headspace I want to get into. And I spend a lot of time on the backgrounds thinking through that as well, which is like, remove yourself from the local color of the object. Local color is like a painting term for the inherent color of the object. Like a red apple would be red, you know. His jacket is blue, so that's like the local color is blue on the jacket. And think through like, this thing is a basic three-dimensional shape that we can then light and then change that lighting. And I spend a lot of time, like when I'm trying to fall asleep at night, this is going to make me sound like an insane person, but I spend a lot of time running scenes in my head. So I'll think through like, how can we best use color to tell a certain scene story? So if I'm talking to Zach about a scene, I like to think through like an animated film, because that's the only way I know how to think in storyboards, is how can I then storyboard that scene. And then with Zach, it helps because I have dialogue and not just emotion, but how can I think through the emotion of that character and how can the light reflect that? So I'll replay scenes in my head over and over again when I try to fall asleep and think through, okay, well, what if it was raining? And what if it was morning light and spotlit? Or what if it was golden hour and the sunlight is just kissing the tops of the buildings and all the characters are in shadow? Like what story does that tell different from like morning light or first light, or is it something creepy? Is it like a green light or something where it's like some sort of ominous character is emerging or something where we can use some green light? But I spend a lot of time thinking about that. So like in Cody, when things start getting sort of unsettling or scary for the character, it starts getting rainy typically. And so I'll use rain as a way to communicate that things are getting, unsettled and then, if it's a happy thing, a happy moment, or a happy, towards the ending or something, then I will, maybe use sunset, because sunset has a very kind of romantic sort of positive connotation to it. So you can use that kind of lighting, and it's high drama too. You have long, rich, beautiful shadows. Like we can, take this, and if it's like evening light, one of the things that clues us into that is we'd have long dramatic shadows. So we can, if I paint a long dramatic shadow, you may not necessarily clock that, but you have an intuitive understanding of that because you see it every day, most days, and so long shadows tend to mean evening and golden hour light. So it adds this kind of element of romance and drama to a sketch or a scene. If I do that, it's party tricks, it's all kind of parlor tricks.
It's effective though.
And then and then he would have like ambient. So if this is evening light now, so if we think through that, then he would have ambient cool light in the shadows. So we need a little bit of kind of a cool pop of cool color in the shadow sides. Anywhere that it faces up, we would have that. And then we can just knock in the pants.
Shane. Shane says this is truly amazing. We agree 100%.
That's very kind of you, Shane. Thank you. I can't reach my pastels, but I'll use the gouache to get the ambient light I was talking about. So this is just if you take watercolor with no water in it, it's quite opaque. So this is just burnt umber, which is like an orange, and then went right over his thumb. There we go. And if you take burnt umber, which is an orange, and ultramarine, which is a blue, the two opposites together 50-50 create black. But what I like to do is create 50-50 black, and then I pitch it 60-40. So 60-40 blue, reload, 60-40 burnt umber. So what you get is orange and blue sitting next to each other. And then we can create that optical gray I was talking about, where he has an inherent blue jacket. Let me get a different brush because this one's now covered in this. You take a little bit of orange. If we just pop in some of that, this is cadmium orange, into the cerulean, it just creates this kind of romantic glow to the character, where, especially if we were doing this in theory in evening light, it would catch a lot of really warm glows. You get intensely cool shadows and intensely warm. So lots of purples, that kind of thing. And then I'll take an opaque gouache. This is a horizon blue. And I can opaquely put in some ambient kind of cool colors. So if this is the evening light, those upward facing planes would catch ambient cool tones.
Oh, yeah.
So a little bit. Anywhere where it's pointing up towards the sky, like there's a fold in the pants, it would catch just that little hint of a kind of ambient cool blue. And the ears are local color white. So if they are in shadow, they would catch this sort of ambient cool blue. And then where they point down, towards the ground, light would hit the ground and bounce back up into them. So we would get ambient warm tones. But the goal is to get a kind of constant interplay of warm and cool colors intermixing with one another. And then we can just sort of ink this thing. I'll do some of the shoes he wears are based on the Converse weapons.
What a cool name.
But we can't call them that, in the book. So so I took the star off in the book.
I took those are definitely Converse.
I took the Volkswagen logo off the car, and I took the star off the Converses. I bought the outfit so I could actually, like a crazy person.
I love the dedication. Yeah, this is so good.
I love it.
It's pretty awesome to see live. So Jerry is impressed with it as well.
This is the like the jacket that they wear. This is
wow.
the members only from the 80s.
Oh, that's so cool.
Man, I love the commitment. It's so
yeah.
This is the weapons, and I've been wearing them around so they'll get worn in, but they're very narrow, and I have super flat feet, so they're super uncomfortable. But they're cool shoes.
They look awesome, yeah.
But I remember like I said, most of my cultural kind of experience of the 1980s is through the lens of like what I remember of my dad, which is like the main thing is just the visual memory of the really clunky big white shoes, like walking or running. They were always like big chunky white shoes or whatever. So that was something that was important to me with designing the character, was like I like a big chunky white shoe, and that makes
it does look really cool, especially with the character.
Yeah, Jared, you have to wear this outfit to Heroes next year.
I probably will. I bought me and the writer Zach bought Stan and his family and the team behind the Doggo team is their imprint, and we bought them all members only jackets with the emblem on it, and and then Zach and I bought the shoes. So he bought the blue. My favorite character, which I probably should have done, is the cousin. I really like Yukichi. So that was why the jacket I have is orange. That's the jacket that Yukichi wears, is the orange jacket. And in the original, he just happens to be my favorite character, and it's not even like a particular thing he did. I don't know why I really
like him,
of that character. So he is in he's in the series too, and he wears an orange jacket and the orange shoes. That's why my shoes are orange. And Zach bought blue, the cerulean shoes.
So cool. Jordan Shanks is absolutely loving this. It's like a comic version of the joy of painting. I agree.
Yeah. We could draw some happy trees.
There you go. Yeah, happy little accidents.
That's right.
No, I was gonna my question
angry
from
little
earlier.
rabbit, though.
Exactly. Yeah, happy trees, angry rabbits. When working with watercolor, obviously, drawing is a big part of it. I imagine of like you said of mixing, but also with being able to work on the page itself. How does that play into, you being able to do the whole page in terms of going panel by panel and being able to have to wait for one thing to dry so you can work on the next thing and kind of from there?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I tend to work lately, honestly, with the Usagi pages. I've been really taking my time and like focusing, and so it hasn't been quite as but usually what I do is I do 4 up at a time. So I have these drawing boards. Oh, I almost just put the actual Usagi pages up.
Gosh. Good job, Tyler. We almost
Dustin's celebrating. I'm cringing.
I have them next to me, but I have them drawn. And I have them on these hard boards that I get from like Blick. They're like $3, and I'll use them to ship stuff. But also, I'll tape up these are 12 by 18, so I tape the page on each, and then I'll have them set 10 or so at a time. And then what I do is I'll set 3 here, and then I have a little easel to the right of me, and then I have a little easel to the left of me, which has the Yoga Katsuo, one of the Yoga Katsuo books.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. So cool.
Yeah. So So what I'm saying is I'll have them in rotation. And so I'll just do like the first wash on one whole page, and then I move it, and then I'll do another first wash and move it, and another first wash. And then by that time I can usually go back and do like all of the jacket, and then all of the jacket, and then all of the jacket.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah,
That
I
totally
work
makes sense. Yeah.
in
Doing multiple pages.
yeah, kind of like rotating them. And then the more complex pages they take a little more concentration. So, I sometimes they just take too much time, and I end up just spending all that time working on the one page.
Because I was going to say that'd be something I'm curious about, because I know a lot of artists will ink, and then a lot of coloring is done digitally now. So I was just curious if you ever find yourself, if that ever becomes an issue where you're having to like kind of fight against that, like in terms of time of drawing and being able to get an entire comic done, if you will.
Oh, sure. Because of the rotation thing, it hasn't been an issue yet. I typically try to get stuff done pretty quick, but I also am, like we were talking about earlier, I'm a little bit obsessive, and then I don't sleep very well, and then I often fret about because I don't want to fail at this, and so I, especially maybe because I sleep next to my studio, so I just kind of lay there aware of all the pages I need to do. But I like to try to stay ahead of it, and also just in general, like trying to have good work ethic too, because it's not, if I can overshare a little bit, and you guys have probably heard this from other people, it's sort of a small town, essentially, working in comics. And like a lot of people are an editor here, and then they're an editor somewhere else. And I want to be able to, I want the people to know that I'm reliable. So it's very important to me that I get, the pages done on time. And, doing the rotation stuff, but also it's like, that's also just part of my process in that, if someone was like, hey, we want, whatever series, but we want it done all digital or whatever, then I would really fret about time, because like Photoshop or coloring digitally takes me much longer, because I spend so much time watercoloring, both for the day job and then just practicing doing figure painting at the local figure drawing groups, and practicing in general, that I'm just much more comfortable with it, like moving it around, than I am in layers in Photoshop.
Certainly.
Right. Jerry,
no, I mean that's totally.
Sorry, I was just telling Jerry about Jerry's off to get his kids, so thanks for sticking with us, Jerry. Have a great night.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, I mean, it makes sense. Again, it was kind of like I was talking about earlier, where I feel more comfortable in 3D modeling spaces than I do 2D. But that's
sure.
Again, it's one of those things where it's like you do it so much that that's how you become comfortable, is just doing it over. So it's getting over that fear of being uncomfortable, and that's how you as we've seen with you in your work, and how you became comfortable with watercolor was just you have to get over that hurdle of being uncomfortable at first, and then doing it so much that it just becomes kind of second nature. So
you have to adapt to the fact that no matter what stage you get with watercolor, there is always the phase of it's going to look crazy. There's a leap of faith you have to take, and it's probably the same with digital work too. I just don't do a lot of digital work, but there is a distinct phase where it looks like everything's gone sideways. Most, I think, painting wise at least, and I would imagine digitally as well, a lot of it is not so much just like, because if you do a laser perfect drawing, at least in my experience, a lot of times you're sort of just coloring that drawing in, and you're not responding to it, and it can look very stiff, I think, where you want to have, which is probably like one of the harder skills with watercolor, you want to develop spontaneity. It's fake party trick spontaneity, but there is a spontaneity there that you need, which is it. And I call it fake, but maybe I should say just forced, which is that I have tricks I do, like holding the brush further back, or changing position, or reverse grip or things like that, where I will force imperfection, and then it creates mistakes, essentially, is what, if you were
Yeah.
newer to it, you would consider it. But it's then integrating those things, developing a sense of being able to integrate it seamlessly so that it's not, it's not a mistake if you integrate it and make it part of it,
Yeah.
and it's just a part of the drawing. There's not really any mistakes,
Yeah.
which is part of the hard thing when you're learning drawing or drawing pictures or comics or whatever, is getting past that, like, this sucks, I suck, everything, like, I'm not going to make it, this is terrible, it's not working. It's always going to feel that way or look that way. And then it's like developing the process of, if you can master integrating quote unquote mistakes, then you can develop a lot faster.
Well, going back to the Bob Ross again, the happy little accidents, it's very much so that, especially I'm assuming working with medium like this, or even, Skottie Young, the way he talks about inking and his style and owning those mistakes, and that became his style, is that loose and roughness and the things that just kind of happen when he's in the moment, is all part of that artistic process, which just makes it, so interesting. So
I think that's a funny thing about art and making pictures, and then getting to know people who make pictures, like, so someone like Skottie, because I feel like I feel like, I'm trying to put this delicately, I feel like a ham-fisted moron, and then I see people like, Skottie, and I'm like, man, how does he get that precision? And I'm never going to have that kind of, like, to me, that sort of like surgical, that was what I wanted when I started, was like, how do you get that, like, surgical precision with ink? But I talked to people like that, and like, I had this funny long conversation with David Peterson, who I really adore his work, and he's such a great person too, who does Mouse Guard. Right. And David and I were talking, because David and I have a funny opposite relationship, where David, if you've seen Mouse Guard or any of his work, and he's done a lot of Usagi work too. He's got a cover coming out for our book, by the way.
Oh, nice.
He did a variant for us. But if you look at David's work, it's very he also does a lot of maquette building, sculpting, but his is very surgically, like, accurate lines and well tightly rendered details, like, on everything, in a very accurate, refined way. And like, we were talking at HeroesCon, and we were both just sort of like being like, man, I wish I had a piece of what you have, because like, I feel like a ham-fisted idiot that's just slopping stuff down on the page. And I always wanted to have some level of precision. It just never happened. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I've just sort of leaned into it now, at least with watercolor. You could call it sloppy, but at least I can pretend like it's part of the process, where I see stuff like Skottie's stuff, and I'm like, man, I don't understand how he got so strong at that like his inking, and then his drawing too, his character development, and design, and just drawing in general. And I love his work, and I wish I had a piece of that. Like, I think that's the thing that's funny, is that I think it's always like, the grass is always greener on the other side. When you see someone else's thing, and you're like, man, I don't understand how they do that, and I don't know how to do anything but this sort of haphazard sort of approach. But that's, I think, at least with watercolor, it's if you try to do watercolor really tight and refined, a lot of times it ends up looking pretty messy. So
no, that's exactly, I mean, again, you're saying you don't think you do as well of a job, but that's, again, one of the things that drew me to your watercolor, was the fact that it did look so clean and pristine, or not clean and pristine, but just very well defined shapes and lines, while still retaining that kind of messy texture or color of watercolor as a medium. So,
well, thank you.
But I definitely think that's the artistic, in your own head kind of a thing.
Sure, yeah. So then I by the way, I'll usually wrap it up with like a little bit of gouache. This is I'm not going to say it right, because I can't say French words very well, but it's Juan Brilliant, which is, I think, yellow, but John or Joan or Juan, I can't say it correctly. Joan Jean, however you say that, Jaune, brilliant. And
Yeah, Jean.
it's just white
Yeah.
with a little bit of yellow ochre in it. So it's like a warm white. So I'll use that, and or I'll mix that with the gouache blue I was using if I want to bring up some of these like upward facing planes. So again, trying to go back to that headspace of thinking of things sculpturally, and I can sort of build out a little bit more of those planes, like the thumb here and upward facing planes. So if this folds like that, it would have a little bit of a plane. The top of the shoe would have a little bit of that plane too. But yeah, so that's how I tend to draw in my sketchbook, which is now anymore become just bulk stacks of paper because I got tired of buying the spiral bound books because I was going through them too fast. But so this is like a typical sketchbook page. I usually like to do like 4 or 5 characters and then I'll paint one. Yeah, it's really fun, especially doing something like the Usagi cast or like I've done a ton of Ninja Turtles. I was doing a cover series for the Ninja Turtles, which is coming out this month. I think it started coming out. I did.
They look amazing.
4 of them for the holidays, and but I spent a lot of time doing these, just filling pages of turtles, and especially getting to do stuff like this where they're so animated. It's really fun to think through, like doing a half pipe sort of trick, but on like a trash can or something, like thinking through the animation in my head and then applying those cube rotations and plane changes, and getting to fill a bunch of pages with them. So, but yeah, that would be more how I sketch in a sketchbook. The process on actual watercolor paper is pretty much literally the same. It's just you can do more wet into wet. It's much less textural. This is like a drawing paper, so the watercolor doesn't really sit very well on it, which I like. Initially, I was like, "Whoa, that's ugly," but I got used to it now, and I like sort of integrating the chaotic texture you get. See how it's like not like
right there, that rough
perfectly
patch,
like here and then in here, how the colors, the pigment doesn't, it dries unevenly basically. Where with watercolor, I can do like 40% of it wet into wet, like soak the page. Like on the bigger ones, sometimes I'll like put them in the bathtub and like soak the page with water. And then you could just paint wet into wet, like the sky. You can paint like a sky for an hour if you wanted, and it's all soft and very wet, and it dries very evenly together. It sits on sizing, which is like a gelatin that like suspends the pigment in the water, and then it all melts together. Where this drawing paper dries very unevenly. So but I like it because it goes very fast. So it gives,
like you said, it gives such a cool texture and unique, look to it.
Yeah. And like, I don't know how much time that was. I mean, I'm talking the whole time, but like if I'm concentrating, I can usually do like, as a warm up or as a whatever, I can sit and do a bunch of pages, and especially drawing with like the wax pencil, because you can't erase. So I can't be too delicate anyways. You just kind of have to stick and move, and just keep drawing and painting. And if I don't like it, I just paint opaquely over top of it, with gouache.
Now this is I mean, you're getting tons of comments from Shane, this was amazing, and Ryan, I'm just watching in silent awe, and again, our numbers haven't really dipped at all, but there hasn't been as much talking, which it's that kind of thing when you're eating a good meal. It's like everybody's just kind of inspired by the process and just enraptured by it, so they're just watching. So that's I can't thank you enough for doing this. So
well, thank you guys. I mean, it's an honor to get to do this and get to chat with you guys. I mean, you were a joy to talk to at Heroes Con, and so it's fun to get to chat more and get to know you guys a little better, like where you're from, and I'll hopefully get to see you guys. Are you both going to OAX or?
No,
I don't think you will yet, Dustin.
Yeah, I'm an accountant, so that's usually our first quarter is pretty rough for for me getting any vacation time. So that's why Heroes works better in the summer. So
yeah, I've never done it, but I hear it's amazing. Everybody I've talked to says it's amazing. So
I'd love to go.
I'm excited to see.
Well, I'm definitely, knowing that you're going to be there and looking again at more of the people, I definitely going to try and take a stab at going especially since I live so close. I only live about 40 minutes, outside the city. So I would definitely love to go and hopefully capture that same experience at Heroes of, just being able to talk to the artists like yourself and just seeing, the art in this way. So
Cool. By the way, I saw over my shoulder, Britton asked if I've tried to use Corel Painter. I've never used Corel
yes.
Painter. I've used so sometimes I'll use landscape. I'll do landscape painting with what's the one I use? The one everybody uses that's not Photoshop. I'll use Photoshop typically,
Procreate.
and then Procreate. Yeah, that's it. Just because like I don't want to totally. I've never used the watercolor tools though. The like pretend, so to speak, watercolor tools. I've never found one that I just put on and was like, oh, this works really well. But I have seen ones that I liked. Like there's one of my favorite animated films is Ernest and Celestine, and the first one. I mean, the second one's great too. But the first one I really enjoyed. I felt like it really captured. I'm a huge fan of Gabrielle Vincent, who's the artist behind Ernest and Celestine, and I actually have her. Speaking of art books, watch me knock down my whole
Share away.
Gabrielle Vincent. Anyways, this was one of the biggest influences on me was Gabrielle Vincent's children's books, and I just love her soft hand and style. She passed away like in the early 2000s, but she is Belgian, and a lot of her, she's very famous in Europe. These are a lot of her like plein air paintings and drawings. She was a very skilled artist in general. But let me see. Here we go. Ernest and Celestine pictures. So it's just about a bear and a mouse, and I just adore her books. And like they're a children book series, and they aren't like, I'm not saying that it's like better or worse, but there's no like moralization. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have books that have like always say thank you or whatever, but like they're about essentially nothing. So all you get to do is like revel in the relationship between this bear and this mouse. And like they go to the art museum, she loses her stuffed animal, like and he goes to try to find it. It gets tore at one point, and he sews a new one together for it. Like they just do these, it's like these little slice of life moments, like much like we were talking about with Totoro. And they're so full of life, and they're so beautiful, and it's this very soft hand with watercolor, and I have always really adored Gabrielle Vincent's pictures, and the Ernest and Celestine animated film is digital watercolor, and I think it's for digital work, I think it's very successful. I think it's very beautiful. And I have a friend named Gabe who is a video game artist also, and he has developed a series of watercolor brushes, and they look great. They look phenomenal. I mean, I don't think they look like watercolor necessarily, but they certainly have a lot of energy and life to them. But I haven't personally tampered with that, but I have tampered with like digital, like just taking an iPad and doing some landscape painting with it, because I like to at least know how. But I tend to only paint opaquely in that case, just using whatever the digital tools are, like the circle brush, whatever you call that, and whatever those tools are, just to see what I can get out of that. But any of the digital brushes, I've never been particularly satisfied with, but I also haven't really given them enough time to have a solid opinion of like, I don't like this or I do like this. I tend to use whatever the circle brush is it comes with, and try to like basically chase shapes, like just paint the shapes that I see opaquely.
Interesting. Yeah. Because I know there's it varies, I know the brushes, they've made new ones with Procreate. I'm not really familiar with. And then I know there's other programs that have really tried to simulate like using math and everything to like what actually would happen if it were to soak into the, the paper and stuff. Again, not as familiar with it. I just know that there have been a lot of attempts to try and replicate digitally, that kind of effect.
Well, I know. I mean, I don't know him personally, but like Kyle Webster is always at things, and he designed a ton of those. He seems to be sort of the godfather of a lot of that stuff. And he did all of these brushes you used to be able to buy, and now they come with Photoshop. And I think he's broken away from Photoshop. And he's like
He's with Procreate right now,
yeah,
so he
Procreate
just released their big new update with a whole bunch of new brushes. So
there you go. He seems like a genius. He seems like he makes
Yeah.
some really cool stuff. I've just not spent a lot of time. Honestly, it's like it's hard because it's like I just feel like with the watercolor stuff, I'm I'm not trying to sound like I'm not fishing, but I have a long way to go till I feel like I understand what this thing is and how these things work. And so you know, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there already are people who are geniuses and have natural talent who spend their whole life doing watercolor. And I just think like, you know, I'm pretty content to spend the rest of my life doing this thing and trying to get better at it and trying to understand it better. That's how I feel about most things. Like I get people who ask me about AI art because I don't use any digital tools, and I just sort of I honestly just don't think a whole lot about it because I always go back to the fact that I have like my childhood best friend is he does very fine cabinet building, so he could take like this like 18th century like lounge chair or something and a leg will break off and it'll be this crazy intricate lathe work or whatever. And he's an absolute genius artist with a capital A at replicating these like intricate, complex woodworks and like rebuilding things like that. These old chairs. He's a absolutely like one of the most talented artists I've ever met. And he does that like for a living and for fun, like building these intricate woodworking things. And I'm content to be like that. I think this is my little like woodworking thing of like, maybe everybody wants Walmart furniture or whatever now and IKEA furniture or whatever. And there's not as much of a market for niche fine woodworking tables and things, but there's enough there and he's still there making it and he's happy and that's what makes him happy. And this is the thing that makes me happy. So whether or not someone gives me money for this stupid stuff, I'm going to do this. I need to do this.
Jared, come on.
Yeah, there's people.
No, I mean, I was going to say, Carl,
more than
Carl's collection had said you are definitely on his list for OAX, and Shane's already
tons of people trying to claim this page.
I'm going to try to. I'll contact you offline about this one after. But is there a commission?
Not that it's stupid, but I mean, I got you. Like in the greater sense of the thing that we're just on this sort of rock hurled through outer space at a million miles an hour or whatever, and we're just stuck on this thing. And it's kind of absurd and silly that I spend all my time doing this one thing. That's what I mean by silly and kind of stupid. But
but it brings so much joy to
it brings me joy.
It brings us joy as well.
So it makes me happy, and I'm content to have that whether or not someone gives me money for it or not.
Well, Jared, do you have a current commission list open, or is it closed due to the
I do
interiors you're working on?
In a sense, although it's kind of delayed. They are kind of delaying it and opening it up for OAX. I got you. I have to finish this book or we're not going to have a book. The Usagi book. So any commissions I am doing, I am just doing it with the caveat of like, I do have to finish this book first. So, I'm 20 in, I still have 80 to go. So pages wise. So
I like Carl's comment. We're hurtling through space, but we can't have naked walls. And your art brings so much joy to people. So that's a great comment.
Wonderful.
Carl.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was so much fun, guys, and I feel like I'm keeping you guys now, and I don't want to stay past my welcome, but I really appreciate you guys having me on, and it's an honor to get to sit and draw with you guys and your viewers, rather, I guess, not just listeners.
Yeah, we were willing to go as long as you were willing to take us.
Yeah, the honor is absolutely all ours.
And without further ado, Tyler, do you want to induct Jared into the hall?
We've started a new thing starting with Derek where we have a certified good buddy club.
Nice.
If you've appeared on our show, you're now a certified good buddy. And so you join the ranks of Derek and other people who've appeared on the show. So,
and as I say, congratulations, and we're sorry. that's what I was saying.
Well, thank you guys so much. It was really a lot of fun.
Such a pleasure. And just to kind of wrap up shop from our end before we say our goodbyes to Jared here, Jay Fosgate will be on a special night. We won't be doing a Wednesday night show, but we're doing a Friday night show on October 17th to mark the release of issue 45 of I Hate Fairyland, which features the one and only Popeye. Jay would be joining us that night. Also, Skottie, there's approximately 2 days left to get on his CGC opportunity list. Mail those books yesterday. If you're going to, remarks and signatures are still open, so get those out there. Last but not least, Jamie is doing his Inktober and indie comic. It's Icetober, but I can't remember the exact thing that stands for. But in Pulptober, there's been approximately 12 to 13 claimed already, some sight unseen. These are $150 now plus $10 shipping. That's a flat fee of shipping no matter how many you buy. That price jumps to $200 in 2026. So make sure and take advantage of some of these great pieces that Jamie is putting out.
Tons of good characters.
Oh, this is last but not least.
I was gonna say,
Yes.
last but not least. Yeah,
you can tell when I don't do the slides. I forget.
Yeah, Derek's page of I Hate Fairyland number 42 art. So you can see the sold out pages there, but there's still a ton left. For you to go claim. And again, if you're part of the Patreon, you get the 10% off. So definitely utilize that to get some awesome artwork. So
absolutely. Oh man, there's more. There's more.
Today's announced Brett Bean's Dungeon Crawler Carl campaign for his comic that he's doing with Matt and other people, and they've already well surpassed their goal of $50,000. They're almost near $1 million now, which is just absolutely insane. They had a few Brett boxes, which I thought were hilarious in their backer kit. Unfortunately, all gone, but included sketches from Brett, or even possibly being drawn into the comic by Brett himself, which I was so bummed that I did not get. But hopefully, they'll add more. And going to the next page, I was at least lucky enough to have my question that I had posed a little earlier. And as soon as it was read out loud, Brett just gave a big sigh and just shook his head. And he was like, I know exactly who this is asking this ridiculous question. So that was absolutely hilarious to watch live. So
the restraining order does not apply to the internet, apparently. So
I'm cut out of Skottie's line. I'm cut out of Brett's line. The list goes on. So yeah, I think that then that wraps it up. So
and same thing, Jared. We always last year in 2025. This should say 2026. I don't think we've updated. We had we had a fan meetup where just a bunch of members from our group got together at Buffalo Wild Wings. Skottie and Megan and Skiff from their crew showed up. We just hung out for a little bit. In 2026, we'll do it again. You're more than welcome to come on that Thursday night and meet up with us if you have time. Cool. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
If anybody else of the fans wants to be on Skottie Talk, you're more than welcome. Just shoot me or Tyler a message, and we'll see if we can make it happen. And Jared, before we leave, I want to make sure and say, like I said earlier, you're always welcome to come back here anytime. Yeah. When any new books drop, you want to show any artwork, you want to show any processes, or you just want to sit and talk Ghibli. Is that the name of the studios?
Yeah.
Yes. I'll sit back and listen, but it's fun to have you on and hear and just to experience all the knowledge that you have. So thank you very much for giving us 3 hours and breaking the record for the longest Skottie Talk episode. This is a pleasure.
Well, thank you guys so much. It really is an honor, and I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to plug before we get off, or anything you want to?
I don't think so at the moment. I'm doing OAX. I'm working on the Usagi book. That's pretty much it. Which isn't coming out until, I think March maybe. It's when it starts coming out. So,
awesome.
Just kind of working on that for now. A lot of the bigger things will be announced next year. I'm like in a holding pattern right now because a lot of the big things are happening next year. But
yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to Cody 2 and everything else that is unannounced to come out then. And you've got the TMNT covers coming out that you talked about, and the Godzilla cover. Some of that stuff we had
thank you, Kyle.
earlier in the in the show. So I appreciate you calling it out, Kyle. But thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everybody who stayed and watched with us. And again, it was so fun to see the chatting, you be, a little bit more intermittent as everyone was just watching you, sketch and draw and looking at all the awesome art.
That
So
was pretty impressive. That was fun to watch. Yeah.
yeah,
It's,
it was just a
Thank
fun,
you.
a
Thanks for
fun
drawing
show,
along.
so.
You did good.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah. Now, when I say I have no talent, I'm being honest. You are, and next time you come on, we'll have a special slide of Touched by God, Jared Cullum, artist. So,
Well, you
no,
drew a
no,
cube. I mean, that's
Exactly.
that's
it's
a
a
hard
start.
thing, dude.
It's a
That's
start, exactly.
Yeah.
people go to school to learn how to do that.
It's
I'll
true.
keep practicing. I'll try to make you proud the next time you come on. So,
Awesome, very cool.
Tunes, thanks for jumping in at the end. Make sure and watch the recap. It'll be
Yes.
on the channel. So, and subscribe for any time we have any more content like this coming out. And I'll shut up and pass it over to Tyler to close us out.
Nope. Thank you everybody for joining us. Join us for the next show. Again, that's going to be well, the next one will be the 8th, but then we'll have the 17th or no, not the 8th. The
7th. It's gonna be on a Tuesday
that was
because
it.
you have
Tuesday.
an
Yep.
engagement. So
Yes, correct. That's when Tron comes out, and I have to go see Tron.
it's priorities, man.
But yes, join us next Tuesday, the 7th, and then the 17th for Jay. But until then, stay fresh, live messy, and we'll catch all of y'all next time.
Thanks, guys.